Okay, I think we're live. Plat Chat, episode 209. We're three people. We're only three people. And if you're watching the video, you know who's missing at this point. We're 20 minutes late, so I figured we might as well go ahead and start the episode. I'm back this week. Of course, we got AVRL and Hawk returns to Plat Chat. You were here last month too, becoming a bit of a regular on the podcast. So welcome back.
No one else could fill in. Just me.
Well, we got some news that I figured you'd have some opinions on, so I figured why not bring in Hawk again, because I know you'll.
Jake was like, "Oh, I don't want to debate Hawk again. I just got to give Hawk the default win this time around." So you know, that's I guess that's what happened there, Jake. So he's gone.
I don't even know. Jake doesn't even know that like Hawk was going to be on the episode. It was like a blind debate. You just have two people walking on stage and seeing each other for the first time. So
yeah, not that it was a debate last time, but I also didn't tell either Hawk or Funny Astro that the other person was going to be on the pod last time as well. So
I mean, it was a pleasant surprise. I'm like, oh shit, Astro's here. You know, like
yeah.
You know, like
I thought it'd be fun that way.
Yeah.
But I also just I want to address something real quick, because we like to do these polls real quick when before we go live to see who the audience thinks is going to be late. And they did you in, Johnny. They did you in. Not by a lot. I don't even Jake was second place, but you won the vote at 44. Everyone thought it was you, dude.
I tried to send the messages and say like, hey, I'm here, but I don't know. It's not even factually correct at this point. They're just like rioting against me as the host of the podcast. Yeah. Like I don't know what I don't wrong.
They usually pick Avast though. If Avast is available as an option, he usually gets picked.
Yeah, I feel like Jaws also gets some votes, but yeah, Jaws also gets some votes. Well, while we wait for Jake, I sent him a text message. He didn't even respond to the text message, so maybe he's asleep. I don't know. Maybe he's climbing and he doesn't have his phone on him. I don't know what's going on with Jake, but maybe he'll be here. Maybe he won't. But something that is here. Oh my god, what a transition. I am killing it. Manscaped, buddy. Manscaped is here. That's right. Cheers to the new year from our friends at Manscaped, because the resolutions shouldn't be the only thing that are well kept. 2024 is the time for new heights, new opportunities, and a new look for your Times Square balls. Manscaped's Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra is every man's cheat code to look good, feel good, and turn the page on confidence this year. Whether you're looking to maintain a trim or go for that clean shaven look, this trimmer has you covered. Trusted by over 10 million men worldwide, now is your time to get a grip on your grooming with an exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com and use code PLATCHAT for 20% off plus free shipping. And AVRL, the rocket. Can't forget about the rocket. The rocket. Yeah, you see?
Oh, the rocket.
It's right, the last. Yeah, it's the last week of the rocket, or well, not really. But next time it'll be more frames. It'll be more frames. We'll have an actual producer. I promise. This is the last week where Solomon is not here.
Less frames. Like take more frames out. It'd be funny that way.
More frames out. Okay, I'll get Solomon on that. But next week Solomon will be back, so we'll have an actual producer. It won't be the scuffed podcast. Yeah, it's gonna be good. We'll get actual slideshow. We'll do a presentation for the Manscaped.
I want to see the rocket fly in 5 frames per second.
Okay? Yeah. We're going backwards. Anyway, introducing the MVP of 2024. Manscaped's 5th generation lawnmower is not just a trimmer, it's your grooming sidekick. Equipped with 2 skin-safe blade heads, a standard one for taking a little off the top, and a new fold blade to go smooth wherever your heart desires. It's like having a personal stylist at your fingertips, or, well, wherever you need it. And, did we mention it's waterproof? You know, I don't know. You know, if you're doing it in the shower, I don't know. Because a trim in the shower is the only way to start today. And for my men who want a full grooming experience, look no further than Manscaped's Performance Package 5.0. In this grooming kit, you get the trusted lawnmower, Manscaped's ear and nose trimmer, and essential aftercare products with a crop soother, ball aftershave lotion, and crop preserver anti-chafing ball deodorant. Yeah, it's deodorant for your balls, but you didn't think you needed that. As a gesture for the new year, they even threw in 2 free gifts, the Boxers 2.0 and the Shed 2.0 toiletry bag. Because no good and well, you're still rocking your Boxers from high school. Let's face it, resolutions might come and go, but a well-groomed you is here to stay thanks to Manscaped. Use code PLATCHAT for 20% off plus free shipping. Boom. All right, let's talk about some Overwatch, gentlemen. So, I'm ready to go now. Okay, I'm amped up.
You seem like pretty hyped up after that.
Yeah, I'm psyched after that. I tell you, this is like my one extroverted moment of the day. This is like my 2 hours of the entire Thursday where I like exert all my energy, and then I just hang back and I write timestamps for the podcast and I upload it to audio platforms, and I like, oh, should we make a short of AVRL molding different balance changes? But yeah, we'll see. Hopefully Jake will come in to assist us a little bit. But anyway, talk of the town, guys. A huge blog was released this past week. I think actually it was last Friday actually, where Aaron Keller made the first statement from the Blizzard team this year and away in 2024, and introduced some new changes. And we knew new changes were coming to Overwatch and the ranked experience. They were going to make a bit of a shift every season now, every season being every year, to change things up a little bit. But this one focused a lot on individualism. And less so about teamwork, recognizing that it is hard to, if you queue into a game and sometimes you just get people that don't cooperate, they don't help you out, they're not focused on teamwork whatsoever. So as I pull this blog up here, not with the Manscaped rocket, thank you, we're done with that. What were your first reactions to this blog here, Hawk, and some of the statements that the development team put out?
I just do not think they're being subtle at all with like what they want the game to turn into. Like with group respawns, like just quicker play in general. Like I don't think they're being very subtle with like what their direction they want to push the game into. And I don't think like the healing passive is going to be the only like controversial change that will come in next season. I think there probably will be a lot more. And I honestly don't think the healing passive is that big of a deal. But like I think the biggest thing that like they're gaslighting that they've done like everything they could to promote like team play, like promote like the magic, but I think the only thing they've actually done Overwatch 2 to promote like team play is the ping system. I don't think the scoreboard promotes like any sort of team play. The recent hero design of like heroes having no weaknesses promotes like no team play. Like you can't say removing a tank promotes team play. You can't say not having LFG in the game for your casual community promotes team play. You can't say having the worst like ranking system in all of gaming like promotes team play.
Wow.
Like there's just so many things that they've done to not promote team play. To think that like this is like the only possible solution, like it's okay step, but like they're not really being subtle. Like you know what I mean? Like there's so many things they could do, which they are reworking the rank system. I don't know if it'll fix everything. Like even like awful automated bans, like even for just like saying basic swear words, like nothing crazy. Like you could literally just get banned for being reported for saying a swear word now. Like actually absurd. So like they've done so many things to promote no team play. One of the biggest is being like how the game actually plays in Overwatch 2. So like I don't know, like that's just my opinion. Like I don't know. That's just my opinion.
So let's focus in a little bit here. Take it one change at a time here, and I bet we'll touch on 6 versus 6 at some point too. But specifically, the big change that they talked about in this blog was the self-healing for all heroes. Essentially, so they're going to give healing to your tracers, your Genjis, your tanks, even if you're playing Wrecking Ball, you'll get some self-healing. Now we don't know what those numbers are going to look like, so we don't know how powerful that will be, but they essentially presented it as the support passive for all heroes. Just talking a bit more specifically about that, what do you think is good about that, and what do you think is bad about that, and how does that kind of like impact the way Overwatch is being played in ranked and more?
You want to go or should I go, AVRL?
Yeah, let me can I just ask you real quick though, before we head into that even, do you like group respawn? Just curious.
Okay,
I don't think anyone asked
I didn't want to go down that hole too, AVRL.
No, I just there's a reason why I'm asking that. It's because you don't really care about it, right? Like it's just fine.
I don't want it for competitive, I'll tell you that much.
Really?
No, I don't want group.
Something to admit. Why is it, you guys, what do you mean? What do you want there? Is it not you don't like it? Is it not a thing that you want in the game?
No.
You're trolling us.
You're not gonna like what I'm about to say next then, because I take partial responsibility for this being in the game. I don't know.
God.
I don't know if it. I'll just take credit for it. Because it's funny. It's funnier if I take credit for it. But I did bring this up with Aaron. I'm like, as a fellow tier 2 head, Custa will defend me when he gets on here, because I know he is a fellow tier 2 head. And as a fellow tier 2 head, I said, why is there no wave respawn in this game? You copied Team Fortress 2, but you didn't copy some of the best features like wave respawn. Why is everybody respawning on their own? That's not good for the team. Wouldn't it be better for the game if players respawn together, then they could actually group up together? This is more geared towards the casual play, obviously. And that would promote some team play. And it's like, yeah, that's, we'll see. Well, there's stuff. Obviously, they're not going to commit. Aaron's not going to say to me. He's just like, brother, that's a great idea. I want to implement that tomorrow, mate. Thank you, Everett. We're going to do that straight away. But yeah, I don't know. At some point, I was like, maybe they'll do it, maybe they won't. Then they finally did it, and I don't know if I had anything to do with it. but it's funnier if I say I did. And if you don't like it, Hawk, my bad. I'm sorry, dude. My bad.
I mean, you incepted it into the developers' brains. Like you planted the seed.
You better be prepared for what else I got there. There's a few more nuggets.
Yeah,
I dropped in there,
I'm not ready to hear what else you suggested to
wait,
develop a
wait
team.
for the
Not
future
just yet.
seasons, dude.
They're
Wait for
talking
the
about
future seasons.
They're talking about preventing spawn camping. Like, is that the change to prevent spawn camping, or is there going to be another change to prevent spawn camping? Like,
Yeah.
what does that even mean?
They did write that in the blog that they're looking for ways to counter spawn
Yes.
camping. Yeah, it's
Is
in the
spawn
blog.
camping a huge issue? Is that
Like,
a major issue?
Like, what are you
I don't
doing? Like, what are you doing if you're preventing spawn camping? Like, you just suck if you get spawn camped. I don't know.
Oh. I got it. It'll be like Dota and League of Legends, where there's a cannon in your fountain and it shoots the people coming close to your spawn. Right? That's how you stop spawn camping.
All right.
An invincible cannon.
But going back to self-healing. Let's start with the self-healing.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
sorry,
Give me your takes on the self-healing,
before we got lost. I had a big take on this one. I dropped this one, not to plug my Twitter real quick, but I dropped a huge thread on Twitter. I saw Jake. He's not here to defend himself right now, but I did agree with him. He dropped a tweet on Twitter about this whole thing, and then I'm like, well, I gotta make a longer tweet, obviously. So I did like 6 or 7 tweets, and yeah, as typical, it's one of those situations where you're gonna get a lot of interesting responses. But I generally thought that I like moves where the game is headed in more of a direction of, not to use the term within the statement itself, but of personal self-sustainability, not just in terms of healing, but what you're able to do as an individual player in the game. And it's something I've come to terms with in terms of discussing it with other personalities in the scene. Like, you know, when I've talked to the guys in Group Up about it as well, one of them actually brought it up first. I think it might have been SVB that brought it up first, and I thought it was really profound. I'm like, yeah, the game should just be geared more towards how players are actually playing the game versus how we think they should play the game. And it's mostly a solo queue game. And, you know, it's a situation where we're taking some of the burden off the supports and we're leveling that out across the field. Healing's in a weird place right now where it's, you know, I think healing has always been very strong in this game. And there's a chance that this makes healing, in a weird way, stronger and weaker at the same time. It's stronger in the sense, is there more overall healing? Depending on the numbers, that could be the case. But if you increase some of the self-healing, if you give people self-healing in general, you could actually start touching the healing numbers on supports and maybe looking to lower that a little bit. I always felt like supports maybe could do with a little bit less healing in the game. I would prefer a game of Overwatch that didn't have as much extreme healing as it does now. And maybe some people think that's a hot take, but there's an insane amount of healing in the game. Like the healing creep we've experienced in this game is unreal. Like, that needs to be toned the fuck down.
I think the support creep is bad too.
And there's also the fact that we just have huge inconsistencies of who can and can't heal. Like, obviously supports can heal, but then you have, you know, on DPSs, you have Soldier that can drop down a pad. Technically speaking, Tracer can self heal and stuff like Recall. And then, you know, different tanks have somewhat healing. Some of them just have outright healing, like Hog, for example. But then is Sigma's Shift, is that a heal? Is the Kinetic Grasp like a pseudo heal? So there's like little bits and pieces of healing already there. It's not really consistent across the board. I think just flattening that curve out a little bit allows you to adjust supports in a healthy and meaningful way, and allows players to have a little bit more personal agency. And I'm all for more personal agency in a game like Overwatch, personally.
Yeah, Hawk, do you want to continue on that strain kind of? Do you think more individualism is good for the game, or do you think that it should all be it should be a punishing experience that relies on teamwork?
I do think there's a balance of both, and I think that adding like a universal passive will not benefit each character equally. Like, we could think about that. Every change they've made so far in Overwatch 2 has only slowed down the game. Like, if you really think about it, like, I think healing should be nerfed like 40% or more. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, if you compare like this, like the healing that we used to have like pre-Brig Overwatch 1 to what we have now, it is unreal. Like, if you want to talk about like personal agency, like pre-Brig Overwatch 1, like, I feel like every character could like just carry because the healing was so low. The sustainabilities are very low, like from tanks. But we've only like dodged that problem through every format change we've had. Like, we've just dodged the healing problem. We've shifted where the sustain from the tanks is, and it's just like gonna continue to be a problem. Even the support ults, like I said this, I just recently thought of this. Like, think about like Lucio beat, like original Lucio beat. Like, if you focus someone out the Lucio beat, like you're gonna kill him. Like, think about Zen ult. Like, it's a 6-second ult. You can't attack during Zen ult, or like Valk. You can still shoot through Valk or Nano. 6-second boost, I think. Like, compared now, like we have a 10-second window. We have a 10+ second rally if you have overhealth on over one, a 10-second tree, a 10-second cure ult. Like, how are you really supposed to deal with this stuff on like? How are you really supposed to deal with this stuff? Like, like like a DPS or a tank player or like even a support player that doesn't have the role. Like, how are you really supposed to deal with like the massive amount of like like oppressive healing and like just support ults that happen on the map? You know what I mean? Like, there's just so much power creep that like they keep dodging. They keep saying, "Oh, in this game we're not gonna have much more counter swapping." Like, that's just not the case. Like, "Oh, we're gonna be nerf immortalities." Oh, well, you give BAP less ammo, like, and you net buff Suzu. Like, you didn't nerf immortality. So when they say like they're gonna like adjust sustain and burst damage, like you really have to be like, really? Like, are they really gonna do that? Like, you have to be skeptical with their track record.
Yeah, no, I see where you're coming from as well. And like, if you just think back to 6 versus 6, it was obviously a very different game, but there was a lot of mitigation that you kind of relied on. Mitigation in terms of like using abilities to mitigate damage. Like, for example, like we don't need to go to 6 versus 6 right now, but if you were a Winston like me, like you really needed like Zarya barriers, and you needed defense matrix to like protect you and help you get to places, and you needed to play a lot more passive, and you were more vulnerable as a single tank, or sorry, you were vulnerable as a single tank because you didn't have as much sustainability, as much mitigation. You're looking at some of the heroes right now, like if you're playing Ramatra, for example, like you have a lot of health. Like, you're very hard
like
to
no weakness.
Yeah,
There's just no weakness playing Ramatra. Like,
yeah, so it was very different in that regard, and as you said, like some abilities these days, like if the enemy plants a tree on the card, like good luck, you know. You're not really going to have a great time, like with agency. Like, you're not going to be able to like focus down a target, or like you pretty much have to like disengage out of it, or just focus on surviving through it, or if you can manage to take down the tree itself, right? So it's changed the direction a little bit for sure. AVRL, how do you feel about Overwatch 2 and how some of these abilities have grown stronger over time?
I'm sorry to do this again. Just something really interesting popped up in mind. I just got to ask this one real quick question. This is my second. I'm going to count these now. This is my second derail of the show, and I hope to keep the derails within single digits for everyone listening. But you brought up something really interesting, Hawk. Pre-Brig versus post-Brig. Does anyone really? We'll start with here. We'll just start with the people on the show currently so far. Do we prefer Overwatch pre-Brig or Overwatch post-Brig?
What? The game has never recovered. Like, all honesty, like it has never recovered from like the fundamentals that Brig put into the game. Like, you have Moth Mercy, but like Moth Mercy didn't like deny entire comps from being played. It didn't deny like high skill ceiling heroes from being played. You know what I mean? Like, Brig simply just denied and killed, and they added BAP after that, and they had Sigma. Like, these like 3 heroes like just deny like actual play styles from being played, like the skill ceiling like of being played. You know what I mean? So I mean, most people here today are probably like we were here, but like most people probably watching this, or even people like they were not here for that. Like, they don't understand like when you shot something before then, like Mercy Zen was healing you, like that thing took damage. Like, you know what I mean? Or if you ran like, what's the highest healing comp you could run? Anna Mercy. Well, you have no support ult back then, and like no defensive support ult, and like Anna's lack of mobility mattered, and like Mercy was defenseless here. Like that mattered. Like they've created this, like they've like baby the support role to like pretty much have no weakness. You know what I mean? That makes sense. Like, I hope I'm making sense.
No, I mean, the game was definitely more punishing back then. I like to say, like, if you had to go somewhere on the map, you risk dying a lot of the time.
The individual agency was there back then. You know what I mean? Like, between all roles, like, I don't know.
But to go back to AVRL's question, you know, as someone who's washed up, who's retired, and who doesn't play the game at the very highest level for a living anymore, because the game is less punishing, I do find it enjoyable to queue into ranked and just like, you know, this is not what Overwatch really was made for from a competitive game experience, but it does ease some of the pressure, and you can just like go into a game and, you know, play a tank, and you don't feel as stressed. You don't feel like you have to be on your A game as much. You don't feel as punished as often. And I think for a lot of people, quite frankly, you know, for the casual audience, like it is enjoyable to queue into ranked because you don't feel the same level of pressure, or like you don't feel like you're just, especially in like one-sided games, you don't feel like you just like can't win because you're just getting shut down by a couple of heroes on the enemy team, right? There is definitely some more like we've talked about at the start of this podcast, like there are some ways they've changed the game to make it easier for you to just have some more agency and to be able to like play around and have an easier time playing the game, right? And I think for a lot of people that's quite enjoyable actually. So at some point we're going to get into a conversation where it's like, well, or do we want like a really good high-end, you know, competitive experience that is pretty punishing, that is probably going to make it harder on the casual fans? Or do we want like the game to just, you know, not be catered to the casual fans, but to have an easier time like enjoying playing the game and just interacting with heroes, and you feel like you're staying alive to some degree, and it's not as hardcore of an experience anymore. So AVRL, I don't know what you think of that, and like how you consider that competitive and casual fan base. You're muted, by the way. Yeah. What's going on? AVRL? I know it's early morning. It's like 5:40 a.m. for AVRL. So, you know, I feel for you. I do. I don't know, but yeah, I think we're in this really interesting state of Overwatch 2 right now, where definitely at the end of Overwatch 1, as there were a lot of double shield compositions, you know, there were GOATs, introduction of Brig, you know, GOATs was really at the peak where one side of the spectrum, it was all about team play.
Hello.
There we go. It was all about team play. And we're going the other direction now, where it's a lot more individualistic, and, you know, as you can carry as a sort of like a solo player to some degree. But it is less about teamwork these days than it at least used to be, AVRL. So, what do you think about these statements?
Yeah, I actually think we can do both. Like there is a good mix of both. There's an actual balance of both, and this is important to the discussion, because whenever I talk about, you know, the topic of like where teamwork is versus where individual agency is, people like to think it's a very binary discussion when it's not. It's not like 100% team play or a 0% team play. There is a mix in the middle that is a good balance. And I actually think you know, when Hawk brought up pre-Brig, I'm like, that's actually where the good mix was, because I think I'm trying really hard not to have the rose tinted glasses. I'm being very introspective here, being like, was it actually good, or do I just like misremember it? But I actually think most people consider that to be the good era of Overwatch, and I think so as well, based on what I remember, based on me having played the game, having watched the game, having casted the game. Not even because of Brig. That's just the distance marker and the line in the sand. You know, partially it was because of Brig, but it was a whole bunch of stuff after that as well. But essentially, if you consider what pre-Brig Overwatch was, that game had a ton of individual player agency while having a really high amount of teamwork as well. And I think part of the reason was
it was beautiful.
Things actually died. Healing wasn't insane. I don't think there was too many incredible tank combos that made for, you know, insane mitigation as well. Maybe people back then were just worse at the game. I think that's definitely true.
I've been rewatching season 1, and I watched Gesture and Fury walk out in a Hog Diva versus a Rissa Diva, and they still won just fine. Like, you were able to win on like multiple things. Like, nothing was too oppressive. You know, it was a good balance.
I'm all for, like, I'm generally speaking on the player agency side of things, where I want the individual player to have more, you know, agency to be able to carry the game and to be able to influence the game. Because what you don't want is, you don't want a game where you're tied down to the skill level of your teammates, and you feel like what you're doing in the game and your personal impact is just too low, and you can't really do anything, because how you win the game is incredibly reliant on what your team is doing. You don't want that in a multiplayer game, because that's just a shitty feeling for everybody, in my opinion. Unless you're in an actual organized team where everyone's perfect comms and all that, it's a bad experience for the solo queue player and for, you know, the average player. So actually, you know, yeah, I think there's a way we can achieve both, and the way that it was achieved in the past was pre-Brig 6v6. Now I don't know how to. Okay, this is I'm throwing the layup here. I'm about to say I don't know how do we do that, and then the answer is someone in the chat's gonna go, well, go back to 6v6.
There doesn't have to be someone in the chat. I think Hawk might do it.
No, I won't. I'm not gonna bring that to the topic, but I will say I don't want to interrupt you. Sorry.
It's fine. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I think we can't really bring back 6v6, but I think it's still doable in 5v5. I don't think it's impossible, but you just need to address things like healing immediately and where the damage mitigation is. I think that players just need to be more comfortable with dying. Players need to be more comfortable with, like, yeah, it's going to be a high frag game. We're going to die a lot. Like, that's Overwatch. Get used to it.
Here's two things I'll say. I think we were closest to pre-brig Overwatch in the alphas and the betas and a little bit of season 1 of Overwatch 2. You know what I mean? Like, but the problem was that there was just too, like, the power distribution between the tank and the support was like just too one-sided. You know what I mean? Like, the tank was just like lobby stomping, like in those alphas and betas. You know what I'm talking about? Like, there's all, like, the supports just were not able to do anything. So then, as the game has gone on, they distribute the power back to supports. So I think it's going to be very, very hard.
Was supports that weak, or was that just a casual player complaint? Because I think on the pro level, no one at the pro level thought.
At the pro level, at team play, it was just fine. But, like, it would have been a problem in your average rank game, in your average quick play game. Like, the devs, I guarantee, got really really scared. Sorry, they got really scared when they saw, like, oh god, like, we're still having queue time issues on support. You know what I mean? So, like, they quickly, like, readjusted to how the game is played. Do that. But I think it's gonna be very hard for us to get back. It's gonna be very hard for us to get back to that if we have. The power distribution is so hard between the single tank and the two supports in this game. I don't know how we're gonna get back to that.
Do you think supports are the most babied role in the game? Because I think it is. I think support's unbelievably
10x,
babied in this game.
Like, adding the support pass to everyone is like, we want to alleviate the pressure of the supports. Like, what pressure? Like, these guys are already, like, able to duel everyone. They're able to, like, pretty much dictate whether or not a tank has access to playing the game, and they also are able to just doing the basic job of healing so much. Like, you don't even have to aim to heal on half these heroes. Like, it's actually unreal. Like, you don't even have to aim. Like, it is so much harder to do damage. I mean, it's so much easier to heal than it is to do damage. Like, I have to aim to do damage, but this guy doesn't have to aim to heal. Like, for heal for double the amount. You know what I'm talking about? Like, that's why the beauty of pre-Overwatch was. You know what I mean? Like, the lock-on healing was Zen Orb and Mercy Heal. Like, very, very obvious weaknesses of these characters. But then you have, like, characters like Kiriko, Map Shift, Breakpack. Like, why is Breakpack going through walls, not going through barriers, going through matrices, and then burst healing more in this game? You know what I mean? Like, what is that even? Like, what is the counterplay? You know what I'm talking about? I don't know.
I think the game is designed in a way where players generally dislike dying. Like, one. Okay, I get it. Dying sucks. You don't want to be waiting and respawn. You don't. It feels bad when you die. I get it. What happens in a game where no one dies is you get a situation where
goats,
unironically, not even just goats, or, you know, I have a strong dislike for goats, but all these metas that I feel like if you ever go to the main sub, the r/Overwatch, maybe not so now, so this would have had to have been pre Overwatch 2, and I remember one of the funniest clips ever posted was someone ironically dropped in a clip that was like, oh man, look how good this game used to be. I think it was like peak Overwatch 2 criticism, and people were like, oh man, look how good 6v6 was. And the clip was, I think it was Blizzard World A choke, the initial choke, and it was like 4 minutes, like many minutes.
Bronze gameplay.
Two bronze teams looking at each other, no movement, no one getting past the choke at all. Even with ultimates deployed, no one fucking dying. And someone ironically posted, he was trying to be ironic just to prove the irony. He's like, look how good 6v6 was. And it was just the most dog shit gameplay ever. But the people in the comments were like, oh man, look, this is so good. This is amazing. It's like, what are you guys doing? I think they legitimately believe, they being the casual players, legitimately believe that is good Overwatch, where, like, no one dies and you just sit at a choke on Temple of Anubis and looking at each other for 4 minutes until somebody gets an ultimate. Because no one wants to die. People are so death adverse in a game like Overwatch, when I think the opposite should be true. We just embrace it, just like, yo, it's going to be a high kill count game. Like, there's nothing. That's what the game probably should be. That's probably when the game is going to be fun. But if you're on the receiving end of dying a lot, I guess it does suck. But what the devs end up doing is the devs end up just kind of babying people that dislike deaths in the game, and that's why if insane healing, insane damage mitigation, and things don't die as quick as they used to.
Yeah,
poor hero design too, like very poor hero design.
I couldn't find that old clip on the Reddit, but instead I pulled up this, which was early.
It's in there somewhere.
This was early 2022. This was mid-season madness qualifiers.
Oh, this is Kai dominating. This series is Kai literally like locked Sojourn for the first time.
You should have put the San Francisco clip on Coliseo when no one died for 2 minutes or something.
Yeah. I couldn't find those. Yeah, Kai is actually dominating. Wow, you called it. Maybe because you played in the match, you would know. But I kind of want to touch on tanks here because obviously you're a tank player, Hawk. So you have the best understanding of the tank role and how it's evolved from Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2, and now being able to, you have so much sustain, you have so much mitigation, like we mentioned Ramatra earlier. If you play Ramatra, like you can just stay alive forever, it feels like. Can you talk about how that has kind of like impacted the way you play tank and what is different in a tank role, and whether it's you find it healthy or unhealthy for the tank role itself?
I think the biggest problem in the game is that the most optimal way to win is like pretty much just make the tank's life miserable. And that shouldn't be the case through hero swaps. Like it should be more about how you play rather than what you pick.
Can you give some examples on that? What do you mean by that?
Like, say I'm trying to play Winston, and the other guy goes Hog, and then they pick another thing that also stacks with it, and then they pick another thing that stacks with it, and like these soft counters stack into like unplayable, unfun experiences. You know what I mean? And you still are relying, like say I'm playing Winston or I'm playing like a dive tank, I'm still relying on my team to have the synergies, like follow up with me, pick synergistic supports that can heal me. So what pretty much happens is like you just start picking these heroes like Ramatra, Roadhog, Orisa, where you just don't rely on a team. You just sit there, you start poking, Mauga, like even Sigma. You start just like the game just starts slowing down. Like proactive plays are like, like discouraged. Like proactive plays are just discouraged. And like the tank gameplay, you start shooting the supports, you start forcing cooldowns, you start shooting another tank, and then someone just randomly dies. Someone will just randomly die, and then someone will get one of the teams will get run on. And that's pretty much like my like biggest complaint with tank in this game, that the skill ceiling just feels lower, and like I think the balance like just affects every rank more. Like if Orisa's strong at top ranks, she's gonna be even more strong than Plat. Like, it's just I don't know.
Guys,
like, yeah,
I got an idea. I'm getting the email. I'm typing up the email to Aaron right now as we speak. I'm sending him a nugget. This will be in the game by season 16. Trust me. What do you guys think about this crazy hot idea? What can you imagine a game of Overwatch? No. That's not crazy, dude. That's been talked to death. That's not crazy at all.
Okay.
I'm talking about something really revolutionary here, guys. You're not even ready for this. You guys are all tank players, yeah? I'm actually tank player too, by the way. What if we just didn't have the tank role in the game and it was only DPS and sports? Can you imagine what Overwatch would be like if it was that? Because, unironically, I'm a mad scientist for saying this, by the way, but I think it'd be a very interesting experience in probably a good way. Because I think the way this is the meme. This is the meme right here. We've gone from 2 tanks to 1 tank. Now AVRL wants 0 tanks. That's the meme. I understand. Like I write the jokes myself. Don't get me wrong. But ironically, I think the game actually might play really fucking well because the tank role is just a very weird role in this game. And I was just having this brainwave in my head the whole time you guys were talking like, what if the game was just closer and closer to Quake? Because I think Overwatch is an arena shooter.
Just to be clear, AVRL, Quake is a dead game.
I'm not okay. Because it's a 1v1. I'm not talking about a 1v1 shooter here, bro. Okay, I'm not talking about reduce the game from 5v5 to 4v4 all the way down to 1v1. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying like in terms of the individual gameplay, where if it was just supports and DPS, everyone's kind of like a Quake guy in a way, and it's just kind of like 5v5 Quake if you think about it. It not exactly. It'd be more like, actually, you know what? I'm gonna say it again. TF2 heads rise up. It'd be more like Team Fortress 2. There it is. I said it. I fucking said it. Where's Scott? Scott needs to back me up.
Yeah,
I'm never gonna like this idea. Like you're never gonna convince me that this idea is even somewhat.
I told you it's crazy.
I never played Team Fortress 2, so I can't comment on that. But it goes kind of tangentially with something that I was going to, bring up here as well, which is when it comes to tanks. Like when I heard of 5 versus 5, I thought that it would mean that tanks would be like disruptors. Like they would essentially they'd have less ability to kill people, but they'd like disrupt the backlines and like set up damage for success and be able to stay alive longer, but they wouldn't have the same kind of kill potential. Now I feel like we're in a situation where the tank player can actually like really carry. If they're like really good, they have a lot of kill potential, and Ramatra is like a really good example of that, where you have a lot of sustainability, but you know, if you pull Nemesis form at the right moment, you can get like 2 or 3 kills because you're so lethal as a tank, right? So the tank role also feels like it's gone in this different direction as well, where we talked about supports and how supports are really strong right now, and it's easy to play support and you don't need a lot of skill to like efficiently heal players. I feel like the tank role is capable of so many different things now, where like you're really good at staying alive and it's really hard to punish tank players, but at the same time they can deal a ton of damage and really be lethal in a way that's almost like on par with damage players at some points, right? So that doesn't seem too healthy for the game either.
Think about this. Hawk, you've been playing a lot. I don't want to talk about the finals too much. You've been playing a lot of finals. Don't they have a tank role in that game? But it's not really. It's like a heavy role, right? It's more like.
No, I mean, I haven't played that much, but it is a tank role. And I'll tell you this: people have no problem playing that tank role. Like, I swear to God, there's at least 2 of them in every single team, every
but
game.
How
like,
tanky? How I haven't played in them.
They're pretty
real tanky. Really?
Yes.
Okay.
No, there's like double shield. I haven't played in a while, but there was like double shield.
There's already double shield. Okay, that game.
Double shield man in the finals. That game. Sorry.
It's fun. It's done. No, because what I'm saying is like, imagine tanks were just more like fat DPS, because I think that was the direction tanks were going anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But no, but they're too big. You know, they're fucking 600 HP motherfuckers. That's not what I want. I'm talking like drop them down to like more Overwatch 1 levels of HP. It sounds extreme, guys. I know it sounds extreme. But like, you can reduce hitboxes. I don't know. Apparently that's impossible to do, because we've been requesting that for Life Legal for ages, and apparently you just can't reduce hitboxes. So, brother, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, I think tank seems like a problematic role in terms. I mean, not in the sense that it's just a very different role, and tanks kind of like dictate the game in like a crazy way if you think about it.
Wasn't that what pre-Brig Overwatch was? What pre-Brig Overwatch tanks was though? Like, you would literally just like die.
And there it is.
Yeah,
we've come full circle.
I did a lot of dying on my pro playing days, and I didn't do a lot of killing. I did a lot of setting on my team.
I'm not gonna lie. Like, I've thought about this so much. Everything comes back to Brig. I'm not joking. Like, all roads lead back to Brig.
Oh.
Like, not the hero, but like what they did to the game. Then, like, it all.
She has a cat. Poor hero.
No, but like, you say tank it could carry a lot.
Heroes can't get no break.
But I'd say like tank, it's the hardest to carry on of all the 3 roles, but it's also like the easiest to throw on. Just like, you know what I mean? Like, just there's so much pressure. Like, pick the right hero, and even when you are picking the right hero, like, you still have to rely on your teammates to like not be complete bums. You know what I mean? You know how many games I try to practice Winston and I just have no Ana, no dive DPS. Like, I've literally gone entire play sessions without getting it.
LeBron James, no help.
Yeah, or I go like even like why play Ryan when you requires like resources like Brawl DPS and like Alicia a lot of the time when you could just play Ramatra like or Orisa or Roadhog? Like, why play those heroes? You know what I mean? When you can just like, and there's like 10x more examples of that in this game, where the single tank has more weaknesses in this game, but the supports have less, which is like a very big problem. Like, you can't have 12 heroes competing for one spot, because the best case scenario with solo tank is that over half of them are obsolete. The worst case scenario is that one of them, like Mauga, like, you know, like release Ramatra at the infinite ult. I guess like season 1 Zarya. I mean, I guess that was a little more balanced. The OP healing Junker Queen, like season 6 Orisa. Like, there's so many examples of like one tank just dumpstering 11 other tanks, which is like, you know, like that's a pretty big problem. You know?
So let's break that down a little bit then. So, you know, that's obviously a big problem, and I agree with you. Like, for example, I was in a awful just push map the other day when I was playing Reinhardt and the enemy tank was playing Roadhog, and you know, they had like an enemy Sombra, and I just had a terrible time on Reinhardt, and it was like, I was trying to play this pick because they wanted me to play Reinhardt on stream, and like, it's funny to play Reinhardt on stream, and like all this stuff, but like, it was just dead in the water. Like, there was no way I'm going to get by like playing Reinhardt. Like, I was just getting so punished, and my teammates are like, oh, you're feeding, but at the same time, my damage players are not really doing anything. Like, they're not helping me at all. So like, I'm like, well, you know, it's a team problem here, guys, and they're like, no, you're feeding. But I want to present some solutions here as well, or at least give some ideas. So like, what can we do to actually change this? So when it comes specifically to the tank role, you're the tank expert here, Hawk. Like, how do we make sure that you feel less punished in this kind of like, rock, paper, scissors duel that is going on. If you make tanks less lethal, for example, if you give them less damage, do you think it'd be less punishing to face these kind of matchups where you are disadvantaged? Because I think it'd be good for the game if you're able to force your preferred playstyle, if you're able to play the way you want without the enemy team like ruining that experience for you in some way, right? So how do we kind of like fix that?
I think the biggest problem is that they just kept all the heroes going to Overwatch 2. Like they really just need to think about like every interaction between every tank, and build from the ground up. Because I don't actually, besides just like homogenizing every tank and every role, there isn't really a solution here, like to make the tank experience better, especially when you're the only one. Like only real solution, we all know like the real solution is to make tank's life less miserable. I'm not gonna say it, but
But now you got me curious. Now I feel like I want to know what it is.
you know what I'm gonna say is return to pre-Brig 6v6, that style of game, those fundamentals. Like that is the only way. Like that is where the game should return, to those fundamentals and build from there. Like the developers have always lacked any foresight, any problems they've ever introduced to the game, in my opinion. Like they don't have like a Murphy's Law mindset of like what could go wrong will go wrong. They're not living the Minority Report, like the movie. Like they're not living in that. They're not living there, like predicting the crime they're about to commit. Like they're not in the Secret Service, like protecting the president. Think about every single possible way to harm the president. Like they're not protecting their game. Like they just don't think about what went wrong. I mean, like you have to think about like, okay, for example, remember season 3 Overwatch 1, not OWL, like the actual competitive season. You know what I'm talking about? Like season 3 Overwatch 1, the World of Tanks meta. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Where everyone's playing
like,
tanks. Everyone's playing tanks.
Like full tanks or something?
Season 3 Overwatch 1, like early 2017, like winter. Yeah. That entire meta was caused by Ana nade lasting 5 seconds and it boosting 100% of healing. Like there also was other things like D.Va having 4 seconds of Matrix back then before she got her missiles, but that entire meta was based off that one ability. And we can say the same thing about characters recently. You have to be careful, and they nerfed Ana, and this meta went away. Like it went back to dive, and it went back to like other playstyles. But you have to be careful about what you add into the game. Like the balance will always be the main problem within the game. Like you could lock the roles. You're still gonna have the same problems that Goats had, just without 3-3. You could go to 5v5. You could remove double shield, but you're still gonna have the same sustain problems, like, and the healing problems that the game has. So like you have to tackle these issues. You have to go into these issues. You can't dodge it forever. And I guess like look at this director's take. It seems like they're still dodging the issue. Like they're still like, you know what I mean? I hope I'm getting this across.
I got. Here we go. This is what I'm gonna do. I have the solution here for you. Because the devs don't listen to you. This is what we're gonna do. You will give me your ideas. I will write up an email to Aaron in a nice way. He listens to me, and then it will make it into the game. And that way, by proxy, your ideas will get added into the game. Hawk, what do you think? That's how we're gonna fix the game.
I actually am working
it's
on
a done deal.
I'm working on like a very big like philosophical Overwatch video right now. I don't know if I'm gonna release it because I'm
looking forward to that.
Like it's like comparing Overwatch. It's comparing like Overwatch like betas. I have a whole bunch of beta gameplay and alpha gameplay in there. Comparing like tank then, like how the game flowed then, compared to how now. Like it's pretty much my point is. The entire video is that everything just like leads back to the sustain and healing problems that the game has always had, and the developers did not take care of the game.
Okay. Yeah. So let's shift gears here a little bit and look forward. 2024 and beyond here. We've been talking a lot about like how the game used to be and going back to old ways and yeah. So let's look forward here a little bit. I want to pose this question to you, AVRL. In 5 versus 5 Overwatch, as it is current day. What kind of do you consider success for the game? And like how do we achieve success for the game? So this could be, for example, like, do we need to cater more to the casual audience? Yes, this is a professional, competitive podcast or whatever. We care all about, the tier 1 esports and making a really fun competitive game. Is that the right path forward? Or like, is there legitimate merit to like, hey, we should make this easier for everyone to come in and have fun? And is that really that trickle down success going to benefit us more as a competitive community?
we need to raise the skill ceiling like way higher. And you can, I personally believe you can effectively do that without ruining the skill floor, because we're talking about catering to casuals. The way you typically do that is you lower the skill floor so it's easy for them to get in. The issue is in what ways are you lowering that floor? Because if you're doing it in auto aim abilities or like super autopilot heroes that just play the game on its own, where your input, you barely have any input into the game, you're just gonna press 1 or 2 buttons and the game just plays itself. That's not how the game, it's not where you want the game to be. And this is not about to be Malgarant, so don't worry, fellas. We talked about that plenty in the previous weeks.
Oh, the Malga skill expression.
but it feeds back into that. Like, if you have high skill ceiling heroes that aren't like insanely hard to get into, then what you effectively have is you have heroes that are acceptable for like a more casual player to be able to play, but has enough skill ceiling that as you get better into the game at the game, and as other better players play this hero, they can really do some cool stuff with that. And then I think the fun unlocks through your own personal progression of improvement. I think that's where a lot of depth in game comes from. Like, there has to be a level of individual skill depth to be able to express in the gameplay itself for you to feel like it's a rewarding experience. So that's what I think needs to be a priority in games like this, where even if you want to help out, you know, the more casual audience a little bit, you can't do it at the expense of skill ceiling. And I guess I'm more talking about individual skill ceiling, because then you can bring other points. Or like, we're talking about other parts of skill ceiling. Like, you could argue, you know, having less players in the game and quote unquote less teamwork. Someone's always going to bring that out. Less teamwork in the game is maybe less skill ceiling, but I'm talking about more on the individual level here. I think that needs to improve a lot, and I just think the game needs to be more of a frag heavy arena shooter. We need to have the game. The game needs to be more able to align with it being an arena shooter versus anything that resembles a MOBA. So I don't even think the game is that close to a MOBA in the first place, but people love to drag it in that direction, and it's really not. It's
there's
just
heroes and abilities,
and it's heroes, abilities, and ultimates, and that's it. That's the only similarity to a MOBA. I'm sorry, that's it. So beyond that, it's an arena shooter, and the closer we get to an arena shooter, the better the game is.
Yeah. So you know, I've been on this YouTube Shorts vibe, and one of my YouTube Shorts was I made this, like, when I saw this self-healing change, I made this kind of like analogy to bowling, where I was just like, you know, if you just make it really easy for everyone to get, you know, a lot of strikes and a lot of like hitting a lot of balls all the time, like it kind of reduces some of the charm for like being a really good bowler and hitting strikes all the time, right? It's less cool to be good at the game. And similarly at Overwatch, if you make it easier for everybody to perform and pop off and get highlights, it's going to reduce some of the charm of a really good professional player that's executing at a really high level and expressing their skill, right? And when you think back to the 2018 season, which I think is when we had the most eyeballs on kind of like the Overwatch League esports scene, right? Pine, for example, Pine on Cassidy, Widowmaker, like those highlights were absolutely insane, right? And the state of the game was like in a really in a good place when it came to skill expression and like showcasing that. Even like Ants in 2020, right? Like the Widowmaker highlights, and it doesn't only have to be Widowmaker, but if you make it easier for people to hit these like Sojourn overclocks, for example, if you make it easier to pop off like that and get these like 4Ks, 5Ks, stuff like that, right? It's going to reduce some of the charm of those Twitch clips, because I think Twitch clips like is really good at isolating some of the most awesome moments the game really has to offer, right? If you reduce some of the coolness in those Twitch clips, like it's naturally going to be a more bland kind of experience playing the game, right? If you have this hero that's able to pop Annihilation, for example. I've done a lot of Ramatra talk this episode. I actually really like playing Ramatra, but it's quite easy sometimes. But if you pop Annihilation, for example, and you get like 4 people because you're able to stay alive, like, you know, that's not as cool. It's not as cool of a pop-off moment, right? So I think this is the lowest the skill floor has ever been, in terms of like it's easy to play the game. It's easy to like join a lobby and like be effective, use your abilities, and you play pretty decently, right? But heroes, there's less skill expression in that. Like, if you're fantastic at the game, you know, it's really hard to like showcase that in a Twitch clip where like, oh, this is something only like the best of the best could do, right? I don't know if I'm being unfair here. I don't know if I'm making this up, but I do feel like some of the charm of being fantastic at Overwatch has kind of like been dulled down here in 2024, where the game is at currently.
Can I jump into this bowling analogy real quick? It would be like if bowling existed only with the rails up, it wouldn't be a very fun game. I think the game is fun with the rails down and the fact that you can throw.
Die. Yeah.
Yeah, you can just throw balls at the gutter and get 0 points. That's part of the game. That's an important part of the game. And does it suck to get 0 points? It does. But the game would be no fun if you could never get a gutter. I mean, if everyone could just easily get points all the time, I think there'd be no reward in getting those points in the first place. I think the reward is learning to not throw the ball in the gutter and to actually start hitting some pins. So,
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I love bowling, guys. We should do some bowling.
I mean, it's like, yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. Like, at least my opinion, like when I load up onto like League of Legends or I play Valorant, like, and I'm not doing too well. Like, I usually don't do well. I'm awful at those games. I'm not thinking, man, this game should be easier. Like, this game should be easier for me. Like, I should be getting value here. Like, I just admit, like, I shouldn't have any takes on balance. I just need to admit that I suck. And I need to get better. Like, that is just like the reality of the situation. If I enjoy the game, I'm not gonna have any opinions on like balance. I'm gonna say I need to get better so I can understand like why certain things are like that. But it feels like not only the community, but the developers do not understand that, and it's only just hurt the game in the long run for everyone involved.
All right, so I want to root back to kind of like the success of the game here. If we're being realistic about it and not really, like preferring, our favorite time in Overwatch 2, my favorite moment in Overwatch 1 was when I was actually good at the game. But if we're looking forward, what is success for Overwatch 2 at this point? If you look at some of the Twitch statistics, for example, looking back at 2023, we're not on the same page as Valorant these days. We're never going to be on the same page as League of Legends, for example. We've kind of settled down kind of like around Apex Legends, kind of like around TFT. That's kind of like how our viewership is. And I feel like that's kind of like how big our fan base is. We have really dedicated fans in Overwatch, and I think a lot of people really care for Overwatch. It is still that super unique experience. There's nothing like Overwatch, and I think we're all a little bit addicted to it, right? But what is success for this game, AVRL? Like, what do you want from Overwatch?
But are you asking like what has been successful?
Yeah, kind of like I want you to dream. I want you to dream big in 2024. Like, does Overwatch need to be, a higher skill expression game? Does it need to be harder? No, I'm not asking that as like an isolated question. I'm asking that like, if you're looking for the success of Overwatch 2, do you really think that it needs to be a harder experience for it to be more successful?
It's not harder. I don't think higher skill ceiling is harder. That doesn't make the game harder, because the game is still accessible. I think there's not saying that you are doing this, but people in the community generally have very binary discussions where it's like a 1 or a 0. It's either this or it's that. It's like we can have both, guys. It is possible to have best of both worlds where the game is accessible with a high skill ceiling at the same time. One of the points that needs to be looked at a lot outside of, we talked about supports, talked about healing, talk somewhat about tanks. The more I think about tanks, this is where, and obviously I was never going to bring this up in our 5v5 6v6 debate with SBB Hawk because I don't want to throw you any freebies there, but one point of the 6v6 side that is absolutely correct is that dropping tanks down from 2 to 1 meant that counterplay and counter swapping is way more prevalent in Overwatch 2, specifically for the tank matchup, and that is bad. That is pretty negative. I would actually like the game to also have less counter swapping. I'm still not a fan of the ult retention passive that everyone has. I think we should get rid of that. I still don't know why we have that in the game. I think that's not healthy. It just
I don't think it would matter
counter swapping more.
With the counter swapping.
You don't think it would impact counter swapping? I think it would impact it somewhat.
It's like maybe a little bit, but it goes both ways.
It would punish the swapping a little bit more.
It goes both ways though, because like you really have to think about like when you're counter swapping and like the effectiveness of it. Still goes both ways. Like if both people are getting reset to 0, then it doesn't really matter. Yes, I can think of an example. Like like one team starts on defense, the attacker swaps, and then the defense swaps, and then it still doesn't really matter. Like it doesn't actually give you an advantage. Or it goes the other way.
I just don't know how you address counter swapping in a meaningful way without making all tanks really homogenous, because
that's a basic point.
Maybe that is what ends up happening. Like every tank needs to be some version of Jungle Queen. Where
no, I think you could make them, if you make them weaker, if you make the counter less strong, like you're naturally less incentivized to swap. No. Like if I'm a Reinhardt player and you make my counters kind of like less effective, like yeah, it's going to dull the experience a little bit, but at the same time, like I can still play my favorite hero without you ruining my experience. Well,
the question will then be is like, well, how much does a matchup skew? Because at what point, like, is there a specific line in the sand where a player says, I must swap now? At what point is it where your matchup is 30-70? Is 30-70 like, this matchup is not good enough for me, I'm going to swap?
I mean, you can't quantify that. I cannot do that math.
It's based on feeling.
Yeah, but like,
based on feeling, yeah.
Obviously, yeah, but I'm just sort of brainstorming here, but it's like, is it more like, in your mind, are you imagining, is the 40-60 matchup more manageable, and I'll work with that? The 30-70 is maybe a little bit too far, right? Is that there's a line somewhere where like the counter isn't as insane, and therefore you don't feel like the matchup's that bad, like a 40-60 is enough for you to try and manage. It's not a good matchup for you, but it's manageable, so you won't swap. You don't feel like you have to swap.
It's not just one-to-one matchups, so like it stacks like as more heroes on the enemy team get picked, you know what I mean?
That's
like,
true.
Like I don't see a way this is fixable. Like I've never seen a solution to this problem in this game.
0 tanks.
Besides just deleting tanks. Like I do not see an issue. I mean, I don't see like a solution to this issue. Like it seems like it's a systemic issue within having only one tank. It would be the same thing if there was only one support. If you had to design every single support to be solo healers, you know, and every 4 players in each team are countering the one support, like the single support would complain just as much. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a problem. Like you say, like you reduce Ryan's weaknesses, but like say, like for example, you're playing Ryan Zarya first. Let's just imagine toned down version or Ramatra Zarya. Like you're not instantly losing that game. You know what I mean? Like it's still a skill matchup. Or like Monkey Diva versus Monkey Zarya. It's a complete skill matchup. It doesn't feel like there's skill matchups in this game. It feels like
every matchup should be a skill matchup ideally.
But they're not. It's not even close. Like and without the lack of the off tank and the power of the off tank going to the supports has just like made it even worse. Like every hero that the team could pick, not just the one-on-one tank matchup, every single tank hero. I mean, every single hero that's picked, like, will stack into that effect of being countered.
Dude, I got a solution for you. This is how you can bring multiple tanks back in the game. You can pick anywhere between 1 to 3 tanks on your team. Imagine that. And that's by killing the tank role and making them big DPSs. And you can just pick any number of DPSs. You can have the small DPSs, you can have the big DPSs. You can pick anywhere between 1 to 3 of those. 2 supports, 3 DPSs, 2 supports. And the only difference between the big DPS and small DPS, the big DPS have slightly higher health pools. I'm talking like 300 HP instead of 200, but they have shorter range and they have some mitigation. And that's how, yeah, unironically, delete tank fixes tank. Go from 2 tanks to 1 tank.
Okay,
to 0 tank.
We can't leave this episode. The solution can't be delete tank.
There will be many other issues that come up from deleting tank, like there was when they deleted one of them, or or there were the issues when they roll locked. Like, I'll just touch on this. Like, I think roll lock did more damage than it than it fixed. Like,
really?
I think before anyone wants to shoot me in the head.
It's fine.
Before anyone wants to shoot me in the head, okay? They chose the most severe option of roll queue. You know what I mean? Like in this game, they chose the most absolutely severe. Like if you compare like roll queue in other games, they chose the most severe one where you separate every rank, you guaranteed get that roll, and you know like they've done everything they can to make sure you can't have more than 2 of any roll. You know what I mean? I'm trying to explain this the best I can. Like I really have to sit down, like make a video on this. But
is this worse than other games? I don't get it.
Yes, like imagine right now League of Legends had 5 different SRs. 5 different SRs.
Okay.
Like, there's always going to be a least popular role no matter what. Like we saw it in Overwatch 2 with the supports. We saw it in Overwatch 1 with the tanks because the CC and like many other factors. And we're seeing it now with tanks as well. Like you might say that tanks are less popular, but like players' hero pools aren't limited. Like someone might enjoy playing Winston, they might enjoy playing Cassidy, they might enjoy playing Anna, but like they're only going to lock themselves into an experience that is not unfun, and they're only going to lock themselves in an experience where they feel like they're progressing as a rank as well. So they're just less likely to choose tank just based off that alone.
So I do feel like in this argument at least, you know, the difference between playing a tank, like playing Reinhardt or Winston, for example, because those are the most, you know, different tanks in regards to they're not like damage heroes, is a lot different than if you queue into League of Legends and you're playing a different hero and a different role in League of Legends, right? It's in League of Legends, it's still pretty much the same experience. It's just different abilities and different strengths and weaknesses. Whereas in Overwatch 2, if you're queuing tank, it's a lot different from playing damage, for example. So that kind of like
does
is it anymore what they done to tank?
Does OpenQ solve it then? Because you think role
No. I don't think OpenQ solve it. Like I've had like this idea in my head for a while now. I don't know how good it would work, but I would love to experiment with it. Like I would love a 1-1-1 lock. You have to have one of each role, and there's like role passives and debuffs. Like you pick like too many of one role. Like if you have 3 tanks, like you get significantly less ult charge on tanks. If you have 3 supports, it's like 30%, 40% minus healing. So pretty much like you can just pick. There'd still be role queue in the game. Everyone would still choose their preferred roles, like every other game that has role queue, but it wouldn't just be so severe. Like I don't know. Like I think we've locked ourselves in such a problem with like queue times.
This is, or if you want to pick 3 tanks, hey, make them into big deep. I'm just saying.
Or just remove the tank role in general and go.
Just
you know, like, or just do that.
That's what I'm saying.
Dear God.
Come on, I'm cooking. It's getting good out here. Come on.
Oh man, I'm gonna be unemployed again. Can't even play my favorite role.
Like imagine Reinhardt's a DPS. Like that here's just gone. That here's vaulted. That here's a relic.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. All right.
I never liked Ryan anyway.
Yeah, I feel like we've kind of like dug in our heels here a little bit. We're kind of like stuck in the mud here a little bit. You know, it's a really complicated kind of like this discussion, and I really wish Jake was here, but Jake is, I don't know where Jake is. Who knows? But I want to bring up some of the other points that they did talk about here last week. One of them was the party frames. So you get something like a UI like this at the lower part of your screen, and you can see your teammates' health, stuff like this. It's pretty easy quality of life change. How do we feel about it?
I think it's fine.
Yeah, I don't see any downsides.
Yeah, I mean, it might be like some screen clutter, but like as long as it's like a toggleable option for like whatever role you want to have it on, like I don't see why it's that big of a deal. Like I've suggested this thing before too. Like I think this should have been in the game for a while.
As long as you can adjust how big it is, maybe the opacity. Yeah, as long as you can adjust it, like adjust whether you want it there or not in the first place, and then how big you want it to be. Maybe even opacity, that'd be nice. I'm probably asking for a lot here, but that'd be good. Yeah,
it only seems helpful in my mind. So I would very much like welcome this. I think it'd be an awesome quality of life change. Are there any other like quality of life change that comes to mind for you guys that you'd like to see in the game? You know, I'm kind of putting you on the spot here because I haven't really given you any time, but I'm sure there's something in the game where you feel like, and I'll even have the chat chime in if the chat has any quality of life changes that they thought about. Is there anything that comes to mind that like you'd really like to see as a quality of life change in the game?
I think you should be able to ping. Like you know how in League of Legends you can like ping if someone used like an ultimate. Like I think you should be able to do that somehow, like within the scoreboard. Like say, like some way to like ult track, like within the kill feed. Like say, press tab, you click on this person's ultimate, like on the other team, like at their ultimate icon, like they use this ultimate. You know, like anything to like help team play. But like that would just help a lot. Like I don't know, like help with ult tracking, help bring people together.
As long as the ult tracking doesn't just become autopilot, like you don't even have to ult track anymore because you can just click shit and the game just does it for you. I wouldn't want that, but like
yeah.
In League of Legends for sure, you can click on stuff in the scoreboard and it pings it, kind of does a chat thing in the game for people that don't play League of Legends. So I think that is pretty useful.
They did that thing. Was it like 2022 season? There were like some support players, I think it was Fixa for Philadelphia or something, started like ult tracking in chat. So like started writing down numbers in chat to try an ult track.
That's pretty common, isn't it?
I don't know how common it is. It certainly wasn't a thing in my days, but it started to become this thing where like the ult track, they just started typing down values and you're just like, oh, you know, they probably did this much because they looked at the scoreboard, right? They looked how much healing they did in the scoreboard, and they're like, oh, they did 1,500 healing, which means that they probably built like 47% ult charge, which means that they won't have it for the upcoming fight. like that is a bit, you know, call it skill, but come on now, like we can make it easier to ult track, and you know, ult tracking is really important.
I actually don't really like the fact that you can see the enemy team stats live. I think that's kind of like, you know, that turns ult tracking into a pure mathematical game, takes all the guesswork out of it, and you just got to be like this maths genius live in the game, and you can perfectly ult track. It's kind of lame.
They did mention at the blog
yeah.
for scoreboard
the beacon of
updates.
negativity as well, like comparing people's stats when there's like so much more that can go in the game.
Yeah, I don't like that. I think seeing your team stats is fine, but seeing the other team stats, like maybe at the end of the game that's fine.
Yeah,
but live
for
in
sure,
the game, it's
100%.
like why? What the fuck? I've never liked that.
I don't know. I really like calling out my own teammates when they underperform and they have like 8 deaths and 3,000 damage,
Yeah,
and you're like,
seeing your own team is fine. I don't.
Yeah,
Seeing the other team doesn't make sense.
yeah. So they did mention scoreboard updates, and you know, if you actually look at the scoreboard, it could use some updating. So I'm looking forward to see what that would be like. Certainly, they can make some improvements in that area. But I do agree with you. If there was a way to highlight ultimate charge or make it easier for people to track that, I do think it's quite fun to play around ultimates because it changes up kind of like how you go into these fights, right? If you play at a pretty average level and you're mindlessly playing ranked, for example, like you're pretty much going into every fight the same, right? Depending on what the ultimates you have and on your own team. But actually playing around the opponent ultimates is actually like a different playstyle in and of itself, right? So if you make it easier for people to play around opponents' ultimates and like raising awareness, I do think it changes the dynamic of the game and makes it a bit more fun. Like, hey, they have this ultimate coming up. How do we actually like go into this fight to play around it, right? And currently in the game, there's nothing to really help people remind them or assist them in that way. So I actually think that'd be pretty helpful. Yeah, I'd actually like to see that.
There's a couple of quality of life things that I would want, not necessarily in the game though, which is maybe not super relevant for like 99.9% of the player base, but from the spectator side, for all the esports that's coming, guys, don't you worry. On the spectator side, there's like multiple things in the kill feed that I'd like added. There's still stuff in the actual like top bar UI that needs to be adjusted. I actually still think they made it worse. This is the one piece of feedback that I guess Blizzard just don't care. I've submitted so much feedback on that. It's just so low on the priority list. They just don't give a fuck. But like, you know, I think Jack brought up in the last episode. I don't know if I'm 100% a fan of this one, but it is interesting. He brought up the idea of like a separate kill feed for like utilities, like buildables that are being destroyed, whatever. I don't know if I'm 100% on board for that. But there's even just stuff like, you know, when someone, I maybe not even in the kill feed, but something that rewards you in the game with like a thing that shows up if you shut someone's ultimate down, or like a voice line or something, because that's a big moment in a game and it says a lot as well. Like, you know, I think that being known in the team is maybe beneficial for gameplay. Like if you shut down someone's ultimate and something plays in the game to let people know. Like, for example, maybe this is not even to do with ultimates, but Valorant does a really good job. Valorant and Counter-Strike now as well does a really good job of like, you know, having UI elements that show up when you get kills and really reward you for getting kill streaks and stuff like that. All that kind of stuff is really cool. And that is actual gameplay that would be relevant for the average player as well. But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff on the spectator side that I just been left on the wayside just because it's not a priority for Blizzard at all.
All right. I want to move in to a different topic here real quick. I don't know if you got the chance to play this a little bit. We might have a guest coming on the show, so I'm saving a little bit of topic for that in case someone pops on instead of Jake. But did any of you guys play Quicker Play this past weekend? Is this your forte, Hawk? Is this what you're all about?
Awful. I played 3 games, and if any of these changes are even introduced at all on competitive,
No, come on. There was something good. Surely, Hawk, there was something good about it.
No, not a single one.
It wasn't quicker. I don't think it was quicker. People are like, "Oh, dude, my game's ending 1
minute." What do you mean
it
wasn't quicker?
No. Let me talk about this because I look at my history.
It was more snowbally.
I look at my history. I look at my game history and my game records, and the amount of time it took me to finish each quicker play game was about the same as old quick play. I'm not gonna lie to you. It didn't. The actual time was not. Maybe the gameplay feeling was quicker. The amount of time it takes me to finish a game was not faster at all. So like, people were way over the commentary about how fast games were was super overblown because I didn't feel that at all. But
I mean, it still feels awful playing it, in my opinion. Just like how everything, like 1 fight per point. I mean, it's like 1 fight per point until you get to like the 3rd point, and then the other guys just have massive respawn advantage to the like the 7-second respawn or 7.5-second respawn timer. So like that was my biggest problem. I legitimately think they should be like for one mode. I think they should be changing. I think they should be not letting Flashpoint go in the back burner. There's so many things that would do to Flashpoint to make it more enjoyable. I think Flashpoint should be like almost like best of 5 costs. Like I don't know why the percentage points are so sped up in that mode. It should be like actually like 100% versus 100%, like 100 seconds versus 100 seconds.
Wouldn't
On
that take so
Flashpoint.
long? Wouldn't that take ages?
I mean, best of 5 Koth was fun. You know, like if put that in competitive.
No, that took ages though.
And it was fun.
Took
It was fun
ages.
as hell. Like you'd be dropping like 100 kill games. Like it'd be fun. Like I feel like the gameplay of like you have to, you can't really fight off the flashpoints in this. Like you can't like fight on the rotations. It's just like whoever like walks the flashpoints anyway. And
that is one thing the devs, I don't think they realized how little gameplay there was going to be
there's a couple more
in the
things
rotations.
too. If you get to 99% first and you die in overtime, you will only have 1 fight to retake. Like it'll take so long. The respawn timers take too long because you're in overtime, and you only have 1 fight to retake. So you're actually punished for winning more fights. And I think it feels really awful to lose a fight at 60 to 70% and not being able to touch any meaningful touch. I think that is awful. Like, it's already enough walking back, and I think it feels awful. Like they really do need to adjust. At least experiment with like actual 100% per mode and see how it would feel.
It would just take too long, bro. I actually, I hate to say that I brought this up to devs. This is something I had a real major concern with this, and I actually remember when I first found out about Flashpoint, I got the details about it, and you know we were doing feedback. I was like, my first question was like, how long does it take to cap the points? Because if this goes to all 5 points, this game's going to take fucking forever to finish, and I think that's actually bad for the game if it takes to. Because you might have found best of 5 Koth
I mean, if it's going to all 5, that
there's-
means it's a close game. That means it's a fun game. You know what I mean? Those are pretty
maybe-
rare. Those are pretty rare at this point. Like
All I remember is I remember playing ranked in season 1 of Overwatch 1 6v6 and best of 5 Koth, and going into all 5 and losing was the worst fucking feeling because it took so long. I'm like, yo, I just spent half an hour on this one map and we lost, and it was just like took so long to play this damn thing, you know?
maybe that's just preference. I thought those games were so exhilarating, just like having like 90 kills. Like, there was actually like a comeback mechanic too. Like he might have thrown the first round, maybe even the second round, but your team will finally adjust.
Look, I'm down for making the flashpoints cap slower, but not that slow. No way. And if your concern is like how quickly teams can contest again, I would be willing to suggest something like maybe respawners get a speed boost out of spawn, because I don't think you can physically change the spawns. That sounds like way too much work.
Yeah.
But you can give someone a speed boost out of spawn, like just a passive speed boost out of spawn to help them get into the contest faster. I think that would work.
I just feel like the mode is not being played intentionally how the developers made it, if that makes sense. Like, I thought they imagined like people like brawling in random spots, but it really is not.
That doesn't happen.
That's not really how it is. Like, it really is just like Koth, and it really just plays like Koth. Like,
Dude,
people just go to the points. You know?
I feel bad because you can tell they spent so much time and effort onto making it all pretty and like, oh, you got to consider the angles here and look at the geometry here. And everyone just ignores. Everyone just goes straight to point, and like 80% of the map is ignored. And I feel bad for them. Like, bro, they spent so much time on areas of the map that no one looks at or spends time on at all, except to rotate just points.
Yeah, well, people are always trying to find, you know, what the most advantageous position is, and most of the time it's actually just playing the neutral, because if you force something bad, like, you're just going to put yourself in a disadvantageous position to initiate a team fight, right? So you kind of like always hedge towards playing the point because it's a neutral playing field, and there's not a lot of ways to get an advantage in that regard. So yeah, I'd be keen on changing it up. When you talked about the other kind of like way to play the mode, did you mean that like you could, if you got to like 100% from all over the points instead of like a single point, like you build it up over time? So the first point unlocks and you can get, I don't know, 20%. No, that doesn't make any sense. Never mind.
No, I just meant they're pretty much like Koth points. Every single one of them, they behave exactly like Koth points.
Yeah.
He wants them to cap slow. That's what.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I see where you're coming from.
I mean, I guess cap stuff. Like, I mean, I don't think cap. When I think of cap, I mean like flip. That's what I think. But I guess that makes sense.
You build up the
build
percent low.
Yeah, it just builds way too quickly. Like, it actually there's a lot of like snowball mechanics too, like just getting ults for the next point and then the capping. instantly being at like 60% already. Like it's a big problem, I think,
Yeah.
with that mode. And I think them not adding any more maps yet is kind of concerning too, because like I feel like they're actually fun maps. Like I actually have fun when I'm playing these maps. I just like think they haven't experimented enough with like the actually format of the mode.
Yeah. I wonder how it play like if every point had like 33% of charge or whatever. So like if you dominated the first 3 points and just held them all 3, like you just win. But you could cap like 27% on one point, and you get like 17% on the other point, and it's like a back and forth, and it builds up over all time on all points. I don't know. I just came up with that right now, so I have no idea.
Actually, like Call of Duty Hardpoint, pretty much.
Well, okay, maybe that is Call of Duty Hardpoint. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it changed up the motor a little bit, but probably not. They probably tested that.
I don't mind that.
They probably did test that, AVRL, before they put their own version in.
I think what the difficulty is maybe I just think Overwatch players are dumb, but maybe they thought that would be too confusing for Overwatch players, because like, how do you display that? I mean, it'd be very different and weird. I think Overwatch is way more used to like capture points, so it actually made more sense to do capture points. I would be down to experiment. I think that would be a fun experiment to do it like literal hard point capture style. That'd be very interesting.
While we're on the topic of game modes here, I'm going to throw you a curveball here, Hawk. Thoughts on Assault? What is it just gone? Like, was it unfixable? Was it just a horrible game mode for Overwatch?
Anyone that says bring back 2CP and 5v5, like, do you realize how easy it is just to get 1 kill in this game, and then your entire push, like, that was the biggest complaint. Getting 1 kill in 5v5 on defense in 66 would like not let you cap. Imagine that in 5v5, like a random Junkrat, someone randomly just dying.
You build it around 5 versus 5. You maybe change it up a little bit.
Okay, well, I mean, you could say that forever. You could say that for the 66.
That is true. That is true. But like, I'm trying to win the argument. No.
I just think like I like 2CP. Like I offer like a different playstyle. I didn't like Paris. Paris was awful. I liked Horizon, but I think it's already hard enough to cap like points in Overwatch 2 when the enemy team has a spawn advantage, especially like third points or like certain like hybrid points. I don't think we should be like looking to bring that feeling back anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. For all the faults that, you know, there are some faults with Push and Flashpoint. Like, I think they've been pretty enjoyable modes, and I really enjoy queuing into them. So, as you said, like, you know, when I'm on those maps, I enjoy playing the game, and they're not the problem at all, really. So, I do like that. But I wanted to get your take on it because, you know, I miss some of the maps, like Hanamura, for example. But you know, it's a shame they're no longer in the game. But who knows?
I hate Volskaya and I hated Paris, but I liked Horizon. I liked Hanamura, and I liked Temple.
Look, I just like Volskaya because it has snow in it. I don't know what. It's like snowy maps, snowy areas. It just makes me. I like playing them. So in that sense, I miss playing Volskaya, but maybe make it a different game mode on Volskaya. If they could do that, that'd be great.
Because you guys were really good at Hanamura in 2021.
That's true. I mean,
my team dominated that map.
I guess my team was really bad at Volskaya then, so I didn't like playing Volskaya. But I don't know. Like, I thought they were like good maps, but I think there's like too much of like a trading problem, like trading kills, and that's like the biggest pain point trying to cap points in this game. That the enemy team has spawn advantage. I don't think we should like forget how bad that felt in 66 and how like annoying it also feel in this game as well.
Right. Do you? There's not a ton of news to talk about here, so we're kind of like running out of topics here. Going back to the old kind of conversation we had about the state of the game and such, we didn't really hit on damage players that much, and we didn't really hit on support. The support role, we hit some of the state of support role, but I was hoping that we'd have someone come in and help us to chat about supports.
It'll be funny.
Do you have any thoughts on the current state of the damage role? I know that we're all, you know, tank players here on the podcast, but what do you think about the state of the damage role and kind of like how it's being played currently versus, you know, like old times and how powerful they are?
I'm a tank plus Sojourn player, just to make it clear. So
Sojourn love Sojourn.
I one trick the hell out of the hero.
Yep.
First of all, I think it'd be really funny if we wrapped up the podcast like, yep, that's all we got for today, fellas, and then our mystery guest shows up right at the last second. I think that might happen. Perfect.
It might happen.
By the way, so
it's not really a mystery guest. It is one of the hosts of the show, but yes.
Yep. It's Mr. X Morale. There you go.
No, it's not. No.
State of DPS. Let me think. I think DPS, outside of the fact that their passive is kind of a meme, I don't know if there's any huge issues with where DPS is now currently. I think in casual play, I'm seeing like a wide range of DPS. I don't know where the state of pro play is. I don't know if anyone's really scrimming the game. Maybe collegiate scrimming the game. I don't know like what DPS looks like there. But I think DPS generally in Overwatch 2 has been pretty healthy outside of the fact that Sojourn did dominate certain metas for quite a long time. We've had a lot of heroes come and go. I think DPS has probably been the healthiest role. No, like, am I crazy with saying that?
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
I think there's two problems with DPS currently. One of them is like a more general one. One of them is more like my opinion. I think that the skill to value ratio is kind of like thrown off on that class. Yeah, here's like Bash and Torb, like even sometimes Junkrat. Like you have like heroes that like shouldn't just be dominating like the Genjis, the Tracers, you know. So that kind of does hurt the you know, like why invest my time in the Tracer or Genji when I can just play, you know, like Mei, Torb, Bastion, like you know what I'm saying? Like the skill to value ratio is a little off. And my like personal thing is I'm just so tired of Sojourn, like in pro play and high level ranked. I am so tired of this hero.
I got Jake on the podcast.
I cannot stand like Nano Sojourn is like worse than like Beyblade. Like I swear to God, at high ranks, like it is just an instant team wipe. Or
Oh, only if the Sojourn plays good.
They have overclock. They have overclock. Yeah, I mean in GM, yes. I'm saying like this is like a more GM specific problem. But
right.
Sojourn through window is annoying as hell.
Yeah.
It's just in general, like she kind of just like dumpsters like the hit scan cast.
Look at Jake being pocketed, fucking disgusting.
Oh, dude, there's a lot of pocket going on
There's
there.
a blocking problem too, and my thing as a tank player is like you're literally punished for like trying to take space or do anything proactive when there's a good Sojourn on the enemy team. Because if you start walking up and taking damage, like you're just giving the Sojourn an opportunity just to like kill someone on your team, and it's just really like just even recently like in the Ramatra meta, like in a pro play, it just slowed down the game so much because you can just.
Oh, I made it!
Oh, what's up?
Welcome, Scott. Thank you for saving us.
No worries. Right on time, right? Only an hour and a half late.
Yeah, we're looking at Jake playing Sojourn.
That's episode 209, guys. Thanks for tuning into the episode. We'll see you next week. And,
Who's Bren's player of the week?
I've come in to take Bren's player of the week, and then I'm gonna fuck off. So yeah no. But I don't know. I agree with Hawk. I am so fucking sick of Sojourn as well. Like, holy fuck. Like the number of times I play ranked, and because I don't play it like a competitive at all anymore. But when I play ranked and they get like a nano boost or just a damage boost with Sojourn, they literally just win the game if that player's like playing well. And it's just like it feels like you need a lot of coordination to deal with it, and if you don't, and their Sojourn's just good, you just fucking lose. That's kind of sucks, especially when the Mercy player doesn't feel very good. It feels unrewarding to lose to. But
do you know why? Partially the reason I don't think it's a numbers issue for Sojourn. I just think she is the safest hyper carry here in the game, because the other hyper carries, like you talk about Tracers and Genjis, they're just less safe to play.
Yeah, you randomly die, and then you lose the game. Like, have a couple bad deaths.
Sojourn is just so safe. Like, you can just play her at such a high distance, so easy to pocket. You can't really pocket Tracers and Genjis. You can pocket the shit out of a Sojourn. And she doesn't have the major downsides like a Widowmaker. Hanzo's a little bit more random, a little bit more RNG. Could Echo maybe be a hyper carry? I guess, but Echo doesn't have the insane ultimates. Like, the copy is not anywhere near as insane as an overclock is, right? So yeah, and also Flyer Hero. Maybe I think Flyer Heroes are not as
pick potential.
Flyer Heroes don't feel as insane. Like, they need more pocketing in some ways as well. So there's more downside there. Sojourn's too safe.
I think Echo has to sort of expose herself a little bit to go in for those one shots. Like, obviously, if she's like popping off, then she can. But like Sojourn, she just charges rail on cooldown, and then if she hits someone, like, then it's like you're fucked. And then even if she does die, she can get rezzed most of the time unless she goes too aggressive, especially with the pocket mercy. So, you know, like I think we're kind of at the point where Sojourn's been so good for so long that I think everyone would be happy if they brought the hammer down to Sojourn just for a little bit and sort of like propped up some of these other heroes.
What do you want to hammer down? Like, isn't just like nerfing the numbers? Like, what I mean,
I I think one of the reasons she's really strong, at least from my perspective lately, is just because of how many beefy boys are in the tank line right now that she's just charging rail off. So I think the amount of time she's getting rail and able to just charge and get endless shots. They've obviously said that they don't want to completely remove the one shot, but what happens is they like remove the one shot, but then good Sojourn players have just realized that if they spam a couple of left clicks, if they hit the headshot, you're going to die anyway. So I don't know. Like, I don't know exactly how you fully nerf Sojourn without just making her just absolutely awful. But I think at this point, I'm kind of down to just sort of give her the hammer for a little bit until they can work out something that makes her more fun. But
well, it kind of goes back to what we talked about on the podcast while you weren't here, Scott, that like they are making things easier to execute in the game. But if you legitimately made it harder to like have a really good overclock, like if you made it harder to hit headshots or stuff like that, right? Like it'd actually be more rewarding to be really good at the hero, right? And you'd nerf Sojourn with that. But the fact that you're able to output so much damage every ultimate with overclock, it's hard to kind of balance the hero without making the damage just kind of useless, right?
yeah,
You have to be good. You have to hit the shots, which at GM you can, but at every other rank, it's already hard. Like this is one of the things where like if you make her ultimate less good, her ultimate just doesn't exist at low ranks. It's just completely non-existent ultimate, right? So you can't.
Well, maybe there should be some high skill heroes for top players, and maybe there should be some.
No, but like, and by the way, they've already nerfed the hitbox on the ultimate, like, and the right clicks a bunch. Like, it's already. I think it's already challenging enough to hit those right clicks, especially headshots. I don't think that's the main issue. I think it's the safety aspect. I just think, as again, among the hyper carries, she's the safest one with the least amount of risk. That's the problem, in my opinion.
I also think she runs into like the Pharah issue of if Pharah's useless without a Mercy, right? Like Sojourn, if you nerf her numbers, she will just become kind of useless if she doesn't have like the Mercy with her to be able to prompt up that damage, because they don't know how to balance her without making her just like giga overpowered when she has that damage boost. Like that's the thing they're always trying to contend with. So I think the Mercy aspect. Yeah, I think
tanks leak Mercy.
Where's Jaws? Bring Jaws on. Yeah, let him rant about Mercy for fucking 5 minutes. But yeah, it kind of like I agree. She's just such a pocketable hero that it's kind of hard to balance her.
Weekly Jaws Mercy segment.
Yeah, Jaws just come in here and go nuclear.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too like speaking generally here, but I do feel like it feels more than ever that we're in the position where like Lifeweaver, for example. Like we know that if Lifeweaver is strong, it's probably just because the damage values are high, right? It's not because of any other reason. So like if Sojourn is good, it's probably just because it's easy to just get a lot of damage output, right? Like we're not really balancing based on skill expression anymore, and heroes are just good in general or bad in general, and there's nothing like really in between, I suppose. I don't know if that's too broad of a statement, but
I agree. I think the only time Sojourn's been bad recently is when Somber was OP, like for pro play. I mean, that's only for pro play for like the first half of the year, and then when Bastion was just broken as well. That was like the only time like Sojourn was not like the best DPS to pick. Almost the entirety of Overwatch life cycle, even in the betas and the alpha, she was nerfed for the alphas for a little bit, and then Soldier was kind of OP that patch. But ever since then, like she has not left the meta like one time. Like she's always just been like the best hero.
Sold it.
This is AVRL's like sixth fix of the podcast. Like he's just been throwing out fixes the entire episode.
I'm just giving you lots of content for shorts here, Johnny. This is my fix for Sojourn.
Some better than others.
This is how you add a bit more, because I think the problem is, again, she doesn't have enough risk. This is how you add more risk into the game for her. You give her the Widow Maker treatment, and no, I'm not talking about 175 HP. I'm talking about a range reduction, so that Sojourn is forced to play at a medium or even closer range. If you reduce her range, where she's only really effective at a more high risk range to herself, that's when I think the balance comes through. Because I don't know if long-range headshots or long-range rails are necessarily a huge problem at the moment. But if you just kind of really force her to engage a bit closer, it's going to allow her to be punished. And you have to be a lot more careful about how you slide and all that kind of stuff. So I think that would be an acceptable change that I'd be here for.
I've got a fix.
Yeah. I have it fixed too, but we all fix it. So we'll see.
There's so many YouTube shorts.
Okay, let me go with my first hook, and then you go with yours, because mine sucks. But here's my fix. So
Mine sucks,
instead
wow.
of rail, you turn it into the lightning gun from fucking Quake.
Oh
so
my
when you
God,
get
we're going
charged,
Quake
you
again.
slide in, and then it's like LG. So then you need like tracking accuracy on top of that, and then you remove the one-shot aspect.
Like
So then
Neon
you
ult from
sorry.
Valorant.
yeah,
Neon ult.
kind of. That's it. Like you just fucking neon onto, and then you can slide. Yeah, let's just steal neon from Valorant. Fuck it. We're not far down.
Wow.
I want brimstone while we're at it. Just drop smokes. Like if I'm Pelican right here and I'm playing Paraiso, like drop some smoke, some point A here. Like I just want to block off the supports on the high ground. You know, make it easier to enter as a tank. You know, where's brimstone? Give me brimstone. That's
Okay.
some flashbangs.
What do you want for Valorant?
I unironically, like pretty good, you know, map for
I mean,
Valorant
we
here.
have Chamber. She is Chamber. Just like one shot at
that's true.
everybody.
We've sold Overwatch, guys. We're becoming Valorant. That's what we're doing.
I gotta hear Hawks. What's Hawks fix? This will be good.
I mean, her biggest problem is that like she only has one shot, and like the low level players can't hit that. So I guess like the only thing I would do to like equalize a little more is like pretty much rework her to be like almost like a mobility hero. Like your rail like almost like does not one shot, and you kind of just like rely on like building up the rail to like finish off targets, and maybe even like reduces your slide, like reduces the cooldown on your slides. You kind of just be like moving around the map, like rail gunning people, and it'd be like less about just like one shotting people with like nano boosts.
See?
Or you know,
I'm
like
all about that. I've suggested
I like
that
that
people.
idea, yeah.
many people have like that's a pretty like common suggestion like last year in our Discord.
Dude,
Yeah.
people shit on me for that. People are like, oh, you're trying to reduce the skill ceiling. It's like the headshots are fun. I'm like, bro, one shots in this game suck ass. Please remove one shots in this game.
They did say
why
they're
I've been saying.
addressing
Aaron
that.
did say in his dev blog, right? They're trying to get rid of burst damage. So, like, I wouldn't be surprised if that's in the works. Like, if you go to something where, like, let's say you halve the damage, but it costs half as much, like, it's like a 50 like energy shot, like, so it's not going to one shot you, but like if you hit the headshot, it's going to do like 100 damage, like 120 damage, like that makes you want to go in more. You'll have bursty damage if you hit the shots, but it's not going to be as obnoxious as the one shots.
Right.
And then you can even increase the effective range of it, right? Decrease the effective range of it, AVRL. So then, as you said, they have to play more of that middle to close range.
I can't believe people clowned on me for this take a year ago, and now people just agreeing. That's fucking blowing my mind.
That's the end of
I mean, I've always agreed. Like I've always agreed with that take.
I
Like
can't believe it. They hated me because I said the truth, and now tables have turned. Tables have turned. I was right all along.
Good to chat about some damage roll there, and we bought enough time for Custa to get in here because I did want to touch on the support role as well. And I don't think we have any idea how to actually discuss supports without a support player actually being in the call. So, as our resident support player, Custa, how do you feel about the support role currently? Do you feel like the support role is too strong relative to we watched a lot of Overwatch 1 footage when you weren't here, Custa. We watched like
classic.
6 versus 6 gameplay, and how punishing it was. How do you feel like the support role is really strong these days, and has it changed a lot from 6 versus 6 and Overwatch 1?
Yeah, I think supports overall just do everything too well right now, it feels like, and I think most people will agree with that. I think there's way too much damage coming out of the support role, but I actually like that supports can do damage. I think I'm kind of at the point of like, let's just pull the cord and nerf all healing by like 25%, and then sort of see how that plays out, because I don't mind that supports have more agency within the game in terms of killing things, but right now they have too much agency to kill things while also being able to put out ridiculous amounts of heals. So you need to choose one, right? You either need to make supports more of heal bots, which they kind of did in Overwatch 1, and it didn't feel very good. So I think keep supports like able to be contenders in fighting, but just make it so that everyone else isn't immortal either. And I think if you remove a lot of that one-shot play and then you also reduce the healing by 25%, I think that would probably make the game feel dramatically better. And I think that, Aaron sort of said they want to do sweeping changes within years, and like they want to sort of like mix up the game so it feels different year on year. That's something that you could easily do at the start of a year and then just see how it plays. And if it doesn't feel good, then it doesn't feel good, right? and they can go back from that. But I think experimentation needs to be done, because I enjoy playing support right now, but that's because it's kind of giga busted. And something needs to be done. Yeah. That's it. Like, support players who are like, no, support's fine. You guys just don't get it, you stupid tank and DPS players. No, we're in the golden years of support, 100%.
The golden years.
I'd say the support probably has like 75% of like the off tank's power in this game.
Yeah.
Like, and that is just way too high. Like, that is just like a crazy amount of much power the support has on the game.
Yeah, and I think everyone kind of agrees at this point. Like, I think that would like solve a lot of the issues of like, that would make, in my opinion, if you reduced everyone's healing by 25%, that makes picks like Lifeweaver and heroes that are really their only job is to heal people more impactful, because now that pick is like, well, we're actively making a choice to remove our damage but we'll have way more healing. Because right now, if you play Lifeweaver, you do a shit ton of healing, but like, so does a Kiriko and an Ana, who also have DPS capability. So it's like Lifeweaver just kind of feels bad to play. Like, you don't need that amount of healing from one pick if they're not going to do anything else. Yeah. So I think the healing squish, the time is nigh, developers.
Yep. I mean, dude, I remember, I don't know if you guys remember this, but I love dogs. I remember
Sorry about that.
Was it in the alpha where there was like either a global healing nerf or talk of a global healing nerf, and the devs overturned that decision? You guys remember that, or am I crazy?
I think we played that in Hawaii in 2021 when we tested it.
Yeah, why did they overturn that? Well, they should have just kept that change. I think that was a good change.
Because there was still massive problems with like how the solo tank played when that happened.
But I think if you crush support healing down, and this is why I think you can give passive healing to everyone else. If you lower support's healing globally and then give passive healing to every role, then there's less of a burden on supports to do all that healing, and supports can be a little bit more DPS-y. What this is going to mean is that you're going to start homogenizing all the roles, but I'm all for that. Like, as I brought up earlier in the podcast, I'm like, bro, make it 5v5 Quake, homogenize the heroes. I think that'll legitimately improve the game. I'm crazy. I'm a mad scientist today, but I do believe it.
Yeah. I think the more we merge the tank and support roles into just kind of being like a big DPS or like a healing sort of DPS, I think that just makes all the roles more fun. And I think that
just like TF2 Custa, just like TF2,
just like TF2. I agree. But like, it's also like heads. It goes into what it feels like Aaron was talking about in his most recent dev blog, where it's like they want you to feel like you should play as a team and you need to play as a team, but they want you to feel like if you're not playing as a team, then you don't feel completely fucking useless, right? And that's sort of what they're trying to find the balance of, and I think that leads into that as well. Like, where especially if you are giving the idea of, I don't know if you guys talked about this, the support passive to all the other roles, all of a sudden supports don't need as much healing as well. Like, everyone becomes a lot more self-sustainable. And Aaron's come out on Twitter and said, where this is one of many major changes we want to make. I hope that one of the other changes they make with the support passive is a healing squish. And that would make sense why those things would go hand in hand.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. So I feel like there's definitely some big changes coming towards here. And we talked a lot about it this episode so far, about like what changes we could see, especially to tanks. We covered tanks already without you, Custa, so don't worry, you don't have to get into that. But it feels like a lot of stuff is on the way and they're shaking things up. I guess the premise of the episode was a little bit like, are we worried about kind of like the long-term vision here? Do we feel like the game is obviously moving away a little bit from teamwork and moving more towards individual play, and not getting punished as much if your team, for example, is not really cooperating in ranked, for example, and whether that is good or bad for the game itself. I'm not sure if we found an answer, but it was nice to have a conversation at least. I don't know if you guys have anything additional that you really want to cover here on the episode, because I feel pretty satisfied with this round. All right, AVRL.
One topic.
One more topic, AVRL.
Oh, here we go.
And then I'll throw in like a bit of a curveball at the end there.
Right here. I've been putting it. I had in the background the whole damn time. It's my favorite thumbnail.
Oh my god! You want to talk about this? You want Jesus?
I brought it up in the pre-show, and you were like, "Yeah, we can talk about this."
You want to talk about this video?
I just thought it was interesting. I'm obviously talking about TheScore Esports. They said it. Bro, what an insane rage bait title, by the way. What
I've heard
an
the
insane
content.
time.
I haven't actually watched this video, but I actually heard the video was pretty good.
But that's
if
the
you don't regard the title.
Oh, that's
The
me.
the video is actually decent. Dude, Johnny, you're in the tapes. Your face.
I was like the first player to appear.
Yes, look. Your voice does not feature in this video at all, but your face is fucking all over this video.
Really?
Just want you to know that.
I haven't watched it. I don't watch like depressing videos like this.
It's you and Bobby Carter. Your two faces are in this, not at the same time, but just
Good company you
individually.
got going there, Johnny.
Awesome. Love that for me. Wow.
But anyway, yeah, it is a good video. Like, so they actually contacted me to do an interview in Toronto for this. I don't know if how many.
Yeah, I did it.
you guys
I
did.
didn't make the cut though. Yeah.
Yeah, so
like,
how
think
long
everyone
was
did.
your interview? How long was your interview? Because mine was like 30, 40 minutes. They used like 10 to 15 seconds of me in the whole video. After
mine
like a
was like
40-minute video.
Well, my thing is like I was worried because I didn't really hold back, and I kind of like did shit on the league a little bit, and they were like, "Wow, you really didn't hold back in that interview." A lot of people have been incredibly passive, and I was like, "Yeah, fuck it, we're probably not going to be around next year anyway." And then they didn't even use it. The whole video was slamming the Overwatch League, and they didn't even use it.
So
Fucking
no,
troll.
no. The video was not slam the Overwatch League. That's false. I think the video was actually reasonable. It was very It was a very reasonable video, like a very factual video.
Do I need to watch this?
Person.
I think you guys should watch this. And
Yeah,
obviously,
I'm planning on watching it.
obviously, Asmongold is in there to give the best takes possible. I was probably the least doomer of the people that gave an interview. Not that I know exactly what other people said, but I mean. Yeah, I basically tried to stick to as many facts as possible. They did a good job of really outlining some of the things that went legitimately wrong, because they talked about, obviously we can see on screen some of the stuff there. Stylosa talking about the harassment lawsuit. There was the whole COVID issue. There was the game balance got talked about a lot as well, and I think all these factors are taken into account. And they just actually described it. I think one of the people in the video described it as like a perfect storm of things going wrong. Some of it was self-inflicted by Blizzard. Some of it was not their fault at all, but it was a perfect storm of things going wrong.
Yeah.
And when I think about it that way, I'm like, that's pretty spot on. Like it wasn't one thing. It was like 5 or 6 different things that had to all go wrong, right?
Yeah.
So
They like Overwatch League kind of like overextended itself, right? Like it tried to be bigger than it really was at the time, and then as you said, so many things went wrong that everything just went catastrophically wrong. So it's funny because I feel like a lot of people are making these kind of videos, and it's cool to see TheScore, because TheScore loves to just shit on Overwatch, right? It's like their favorite pastime.
Yeah, TheScore. I'm calling you out. What the fuck is up with this? Why do you hate us so much? Look, I know this is the only way you get any kind of a reasonable engagement on your channel, but like, come on, be a bit more reasonable.
This is the most reasonable. It's an awful title, but the video is actually reasonable.
Yeah.
I hate the title though. The title
could
was
name it,
so
like,
dog shit.
Why Overwatch League failed? Not been like a fine title, or why Overwatch League disbanded. That would
The
be like a fine
biggest
title.
disaster in esports history. Oh my god.
Okay, let's be real. Is it the biggest disaster in esports history? Probably.
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
We were talking about this
Xbox?
pre-show, but yeah,
Really?
I think it probably is.
I mean,
No,
there's been some
because
big disasters in
That
esports
lost
history.
this much
Bro,
money.
you can't. How much money? Who lost the money?
Look,
Everyone lost the fucking money.
I don't
bro.
have the
Did you
balance
see
sheet in front of
2018?
me, but
Yeah, there's no
Show
way.
me.
They
No,
had
no,
to have
let me-
been
let me-
so heavily in the red the early
Bro.
years.
Okay, yeah, but we're talking about the teams, because I don't think the teams lost that much. Think about this: teams barely paid franchise fees. They barely paid it. I don't know if they got reimbursed at the end. Everyone got paid out $6 million. No one actually paid the full $20 million, by the way, just in case anyone forgot. And then a bunch of teams in the last 1 or 2 years were actually in the green, including the Mayhem. As long as you didn't overspend, as long as you weren't paying fucking $300,000 salaries, by the way, you were in the green. Valiant was in the green for like 2 years. So maybe teams like heavily overspent in the first several years because everyone had like 12-man rosters and shit. Yes, okay, that's where you probably lost your money. The franchise fees, I don't think teams lost money in the franchise fees at all.
But didn't they only get $6 million back, and they paid $20 million to be there? So it's
No,
like
they did not pay $20 million.
so
They didn't fucking pay the 20.
I think the thing that I was trying to say is that like none of the teams paid like 20 mil up front.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
they didn't write a check or wire like $20 million.
for $20 million. Yeah, but like it cost them millions of dollars, right? They would have at least paid millions of dollars in
Sure.
advertising fees.
salaries.
And teams, you say teams are in the green, AVRL. I don't think many teams were in the green. People were in the yellow, right? Like people were finally starting to break fucking even. Like so, and like you think about
being
how
in the
much...
green means you've broken even. But anyway,
yeah, but the idea is like they weren't taking profits and like holy shit, we're fucking finally back. And almost every team, especially in the first few years, were paying people, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars for their rosters, and people had giga big rosters. Then you have to include housing, travel, everything that comes with running. Then they have all their staff that they have to pay. Like I think Overwatch League is the biggest failure in terms of, I think everyone collectively lost the most amount of money. It wasn't the worst thing that's ever happened. I've been to a tournament. I don't know if you were at that one, Johnny. Remember 2017 where they flew 4 teams to UK? It was us, Fnatic, Kongdu Panthera, fucking Rise Nation, and some other team, and we all flew there, and then the land just never happened because there were so many tech issues.
Yeah.
Like, that's worse, right? Because nothing ever happened. No one ever played a game, and they flew everyone out. But, like, in terms of, like, the amount of money lost over a long period of time, like, I think it probably is.
And the vision, too. The vision of the league. Like,
yeah.
There were some of these, like, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but there used to be these like streaming platforms that come in and just like drop the bag to start a streaming platform, and then it just like never went anywhere. You know, like Mixer was a late example of that, but there were some earlier examples of that as too, with like just like, oh, we're gonna take over Twitch, and it just dropped like millions of dollars to try to start a streaming platform, and it just like never went anywhere. So it'd be like that or something, but I don't know.
We need to contextualize this a little bit, because it depends on your metric of what failure is. Because when I think about an esport that's had 6 years running, that's had some insane viewership peaks in the early seasons, that had one of the only broadcast deals in esports history, and 90 mil from Twitch, 100-something mil from YouTube. No esports has had that, by the way. And you could maybe, people will argue and say, well, Twitch overspend, that's a waste of money, blah, blah, blah. Don't care, made money, made back. Like, they paid for it. That's their problem, right? Other esports couldn't make that deal happen. What I'm saying is, like, it doesn't sound like a failed esport. An esport that runs for 6 years with some insane sponsorships and some insane deals in the first couple of years, some actually really, really high viewership. We actually got enough viewership in the first 2 seasons that we hit viewership incentives set by Twitch. Twitch set incentives that said, if you hit these viewership records, we will give you X or Y or whatever it is. And we hit those in the first 2 years. Like, that happened. And yeah, we could argue that the vision was pretty grand, but like, how many esports have been able to even get to the level of what Overwatch League did? I'm saying plenty of esports failed well before that. They didn't even get close to that. They would have loved to have any of the things that we did actually have. So depending on your metric for it, I mean, I don't know how much money we actually lost. I don't know exactly, but I don't know how much money we actually did lose. But we also accomplished a fuck ton that most esports never accomplished. So that's why I'm like, it's not the biggest fucking failure in that metric at all.
I don't really think it's not just esport. Like, you really have to factor in like the game's health.
Yeah.
And that's effect on the esport, because like that was like, in my opinion, that was like going to YouTube was a pretty big hit in like the esports growth potential, and I guess like the ambition of flying around the world during COVID, but like the state of the game really like dictated, and like the abandonment of the game, the dream of this PvE, really like did hurt. Like just the base game, the competitiveness of the game, the base level of the game, like that is like what hurt the esport the most, in my opinion.
Yeah, a lot of people I know who stopped watching Overwatch League, most of them weren't like, oh yeah, I just didn't think Overwatch League was interesting anymore. Most of them just say, I just stopped playing the game. And then when I stopped playing the game, I didn't care about the esport as much, and they just moved on with their lives and played a different game. So like, I completely agree with Hawk. Like, it was a perfect storm for everything to come crumbling down. Like, it would be very interesting to see what the Overwatch League would have looked like in a world where COVID didn't happen. Like, obviously the game would have still sucked and they would have had all those Overwatch 2 issues, but like, would the Overwatch League have been more successful if we had actually gone to a homestand model? Like, no one really has an answer. Like, I think it wouldn't. Like, I think that model was gonna blow up in flames anyway, but like, you never know, right? Maybe it would have fueled the fire.
That was a money dump. Like, I'm just gonna be honest. Like from a player perspective, that was a money dump. These teams were not like making enough money back, if money back at all. I remember going to like the DC homestand, like their second one, and there was just nobody there. Like,
yeah,
there was just nobody there. It was like handing out free tickets. The amount of cost for your hotels, like just traveling on like flights in general, like you were not going to break even. Like, my opinion, the future of like esports monetization is within the game. Like it has to be within the game, the game that people want to play. Like it's not going to be people going out to events.
Yeah.
Sure, there'll be massive events, there'll be massive hits. But that should be like that. Those events should be like marketing towards the game's like competitiveness, like marketing towards the game's like peak. People want to play the game. That's like how Riot treats
By the
their
way,
titles. You know.
it is meant. Esports is meant to be a marketing expense.
Yeah, I guess what it should be. It shouldn't.
100%.
Yeah.
That's exactly, and that's exactly what Riot does, and that's the point as well. Is like in terms of talking about esports losing money, esports is supposed to lose money because it's meant to be a loss leader for marketing. It's meant to funnel people into buying skins and buying MTX. That's the whole point. I think what we've really discovered out of esports, especially out of Overwatch League, is that esports on its own might not actually be self-sustainable, at least yet. And for the time being, and maybe for the foreseeable future, it's gonna just have to be, you know, it's a marketing wing of your base video game. That's just got to be how it is, and that's not how we function, because we wanted to see if it could function and operate on its own, and not really is the answer. And so, you know, you have to go through the marketing route.
Yeah, but like Riot's games are like treated as competitiveness. But like when you think of Overwatch, like they haven't catered to the competitive audience a single time. They didn't cater to like even the release of Overwatch 2. So it kind of doesn't make sense for them to have these giant ass esport if they're not even going to try to like cater towards anyone competitive within game balance, within hero design, within like even the rank system. Like you really have to wonder like what was the point of trying to go into esports besides trying to make a quick buck, and not like the entire mindset is just wrong. Like it should be a marketing thing, like you said.
Yeah, and I think they run into the issue as well of like, I think they probably realized that too late. Like, I agree, esports should always be a marketing thing, and I think that's why you've seen so many game developers pull back on their esports. Is I think esports should absolutely exist and should run as a marketing expense. But I think what a lot of the game developers realize is they're like, we're spending too much money, and I don't think it's the advertisement and we're getting enough players returning, especially for a game like Overwatch. Like, I don't know if they're like, especially for the millions of dollars Overwatch League was doing earlier, was that bringing millions of dollars worth of people into the game and spending money, especially in Overwatch 1? Absolutely not.
There's
right?
nothing to
Because
spend
there was
on.
nothing to spend on.
Yeah,
right?
like they're giving away skins for free for 6 years.
Yeah, like I think they realized they fucked up in like the marketing and like how they tried to monetize everything. But I think esports will always exist. Like obviously we're in the winter and it feels like everything's very doomer, but esports will always exist. It's gonna shrink before it gets bigger again. And hopefully when it comes back, it'll be more sustainable and we learn our lessons.
When you look at the Riot Esports, I promise you, they spend way more money than they make.
Yes,
Like,
yes, I know for sure. Like I've heard from like
100%,
sources.
Those are unbelievably expensive esports to run. Their worlds events and shit. Like you talk to anyone that knows production esports, they'll tell you those events cost gigabucks to run. So you need to talk about Overwatch League losing money. Riot Esports loses hella money. They make it back through.
But their game is
MTX
more
and-
successful. You know?
Yeah.
Their game has better monetization, so they can make their money back. Our game, and this is why I've always defended free to play and the in-game stores, because I understand how fucking business works, and you need to have actual funnels where you can get people to spend money. Loot boxes doesn't fucking work, guys. Proven it doesn't work because everyone gets everything for free and no one bought loot boxes. And everyone brings up, oh, there was $1 billion spent in the first year. It's the first year. People always bring up this. It's the first year.
Yeah, you
Show me
rack
the
up
stat that
currency.
says 2021. Like it's just like, bro, loot boxes don't work. We failed monetization. There's a huge issue. That's
Like,
what Riot did right.
Imagine this hypothetical god multiverse where instead of releasing Brig, they release a battle pass. They go free to play, and they release a Lari instead. Oh my God, where would we be today? Those three things instead of Brig in 2018. Where would we be today? We'd be in our Lambos driving down the free state. I'm joking, but like the game would be much more successful if those three things could happen in 2018 instead of messing around trying to make the next.
We've been sitting here doing
Destiny.
Plat Chat episodes. Ilari shouldn't be able to kill people as good as she is. Unbelievable.
People complain about battle passes, but it's just like, dude, you need to understand how games function. Without proper monetization, your game just is not alive. Your game just doesn't function at all.
Yeah.
So like this is so required. It's necessary.
But I feel like the main point, like you said, is that just like esport doesn't make you money, and you see that someone like Riot, they're spending money for marketing, and I don't know if it's considered successful. Like I don't know at the end of the day if you're doing balance sheets for Riot Games, if you're like, yeah, that was a worthwhile expense, you know, getting our own songs by Lil Nas, and you know, getting freaking dragons flying around in arenas and stuff. Like, I don't know if that's technically worth it. That's for someone else to decide, right? But it feels like, especially when it comes to Blizzard these days, they're just trying to make it like go round, and like they don't want to lose money on esports. And you know,
well, you know what Overwatch needs in terms of marketing? It needs cultural relevancy. Because what I can tell you that Riot does with their esports expenditure is, like, do they lose hella money on it? But it doesn't just give them marketing; it gives them cultural relevancy in that fact that, you know, their games are just in the cultural sphere. People talking about it, people playing about it. It even extends beyond esports. It extends the animes like Arcane and stuff, right? Like,
yeah, but I actually think we're on the right,
to some degree,
right direction there. Like, and we saw this most recently with the Le Seraphim kind of thing, and the One Punch Man thing before that, right? Like, I think we're kind of moving in the right direction, and I think I've gained a sense of optimism in that regard. Like, I do feel like the developer team understands that and want to pursue more of that. Do I think we're getting a Netflix show? No. Do I think that maybe we could get, I don't know, like custom Overwatch sneakers or something like that? Try to get some
no more shoes. I'm so fucking sick of shoes. Didn't Punk just get his shitty shoes? Like, his shoes, like 8 years later.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I think he like literally kept bugging Sean Miller about it, to the point that I think Sean Miller just like caved. I think they made a content piece about it. But yeah, like,
I don't know. But I think we're getting more cultural stuff.
I agree what you talk about. Yeah, like, and I think World Cup is a great step in the right direction. For Overwatch, like, if you want to, like, something that I think Riot does, and like cultural relevance to what AVRL said, is like, there are a lot of people who play the game in Japan, South America, you know, all of these other countries which potentially wouldn't be doing it if they didn't have as much of an injection of esports, because they're very prideful countries that always support like all these types of things. So I think the way that Riot are doing it, and they're sort of like trying to break into these markets, is super important. I think that's one of the things that Overwatch did horrifically, and they massively fumbled, is they just isolated markets that would have easily put money into their game, like South America. Like, South America was super popular into Overwatch. Remember, like, there were tons of Brazilian teams. There were tons of South America. Like, even this World Cup, you see people still want to play, still want to cheer for those teams, but they haven't had an esports circuit, or at least anything incentivized or targeted at them in years.
No,
you know, like the
completely
saying.
agree.
Oh, sorry. You know the saying of like, when you're taking multiple choice tests and you get every answer wrong, like, you know, every answer is right. Somehow they just like got every answer wrong, like, throughout the years between pretty much everything in Overwatch. Like, I don't, like, you really have to, like, everything, like you said, it was a perfect storm of everything going wrong, but like at some point, like, it's self-inflicted. Like, COVID obviously is not self-inflicted. The lawsuits outside of their like Team 4 is not self-inflicted, but a lot more went wrong, and people do need to be held accountable to that, even to this day. Like, you know.
Yep. I kind of want to end on this question. It's been a 2-hour episode here, so I kind of want to start wrapping things up here. But, you know, we don't need to go super in detail here. But, Hawk, I know you're eagerly awaiting any potential esports news. You just want some kind of esport.
Anything.
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 I'm in the same boat. Look, the other day, my wife was just like, "Hey, are you gonna do anything, or like, what's going on?" Like, and I'm like, "Well, you know, I probably should do something." So, you know, starting to feel the heat. You know, my back's getting a bit warmer. So, I'm in the same boat as you, Hawk. What you played Overwatch for a long time now, competitively, of course. What were some of the lessons you learned in the Overwatch League when it came to format, and what you really enjoyed? What do you think is competitively fair? What do you want to see from Overwatch Esports in 2024? And now, because nothing's been announced, you could say whatever you want. Like, there's no constraints. Literally whatever you want. So, like, what would you like the format? What's your dream format for Overwatch Esports in 2024?
I mean, if it's like a league format, I'd say Season 5 is a really good league format. But if it's like an open circuit format, like almost like Contenders, I'll probably have like 2 regional lands like per year, and then like 1 massive one, and then maybe a couple like online like seasons of qualifiers, and then I feel like that would be pretty good. Hopefully there's some orgs involved, because I'm not trying to play off Blizzard's like low prize money.
I'm not trying to do this for free, you know.
But yeah, like I mean, I guess that's the vision.
What if the prize money was high?
High, bro.
Ooh.
Like what kind of high? Like
I mean,
Dota high?
Not even in like, what was it like? How
Not even
relevant
Dota
was
Dota
prize money in Overwatch League even?
That's pretty good.
Well, if you won the league, you got like 100K after taxes. Most players.
Yeah.
Well, you came second, so you got a good cut, no?
I think I got like half, okay, around half of that after taxes in 2021, and I got, I mean, even like mid-season this year was a pretty big prize pool. Like that was a decent amount of money as well.
Yeah.
Like those are pretty good prize pools. Like those are good prize pools.
Sure,
But
but
if
if
they,
you
like-
have to come first, second, or third to make
Yeah.
to make a good living,
And
then
those are also like international events. Like if there's
Yeah.
if that's not common, like
Yeah.
and like what do you like what are the prize pools between that? Like it's just like contenders like now. Like that's just like not,
majority
like,
of your salary is going to come from salary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the problem with that is like that really hurts everyone who doesn't finish top 4, right? Like if you have good salaries, like that is kind of the Dota way, where there's a reason so many Dota teams have made their own esports orgs throughout the time, is because if you cut out the person who's taking a chunk of your winnings, then you or like all of a sudden these big prize pools incentivize you to play and compete well. But that would absolutely ruin the tier 2 scene. Not even tier 2 scene, like the tier 1.5 scene would just get really hurt, because if there aren't many orgs who are willing to pay them, and then they're always like sitting like 4th to 6th, they're not making enough money to support 5 players and a coach and stuff like that.
My concern though is that there is a region lock. I'm gonna be like straight up honest, like there isn't enough players in NA that deserve to be like on like a salary, in my opinion. Like the level of talent, the level of talent is like very, very low. So that might like completely like disincentivize like orgs to even want to come in. You know what I mean? If they can't like get the best of the best players, if they're not gonna spend money on the best of the best players, like it might literally just like disincentivize players to come in. So like there needs to be some incentive, which I don't know if there will be.
Yeah. I'm struggling to think what esport orgs would want to get into Overwatch, at least in the initial product, unless Blizzard gives them like, you know, a carrot on a stick or some reason to bring them over. I don't see many esport organizations being like, you know what I think we should get into now that the Overwatch League is dead? Overwatch Esports. I think it's going to be thriving. Like, no one's going to say that, right? Like, hopefully we have at least NRG because of their success with Shock. And
hopefully
like,
EG.
Cloud9.
Hopefully Evil Geniuses.
No, bro, EG's fucking, it's gone. It's over. It's over. But like, yeah, like I don't think, especially early on, we're going to have many, at least tier 1 endemic organizations. Like, I think it'll take a little while. The only thing that I think could save us is the idea of Gamers 8, with like the idea that if Overwatch Esports is competing in that, then endemic organizations might want to have an Overwatch team for whatever that ends up being.
Well, there's your insane prize pool. You want a big prize pool? There it is.
That and that's the sad reality of, you know, the conundrum that Overwatch is about to walk into, is like that's really the only place the money's going to come from.
Wait, what is that? I'm confused.
It's like, you know, it's kind of going to be like a big esports like
Esports
tournament
World
and
Cup
stuff like that.
thing.
Like,
I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, it's like there's like for the way it's been like rumored to me. I don't know if this is like actually like what it's announced or what I've been told, but it's like one of the reasons that you've seen so many teams picking up like these very niche esports players and stuff like that, like StarCraft 2, because like all these endemic orgs are going to want teams and shit like that. I don't really know exactly through and true. This is more just me like spitballing at a wall and just kind of hoping this will bring teams over, but like there will be a reason that teams will want Overwatch esports teams. But that's if Overwatch is even competing at it. Like I don't even fucking know at this point, right? Like we have no idea how far Overwatch has fallen, and we won't know until Overwatch announces something.
There needs to be like a goal too. Like there has to be like a goal of improvement. Like we can't just like get something announced and it only goes downhill. Like there needs to be like some growing pains, but also like some end in sight that's actually reachable. Like I'll never have like an end in sight. The only end was its downfall. Like there needs to be like,
You know what?
like an upward trend of like a goal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I am pretty sure our last season, 2023, was pretty sustainable. Like the budget for the league was not that high, and we did like a lot with that budget. If you look at the finals and what we did out of that, I can't remember what number I got told was for their finals, but it was a very reasonable number for that event. Especially when you compare, but it was definitely the 6 figures, by the way, for anyone curious. Whereas Riot like run millions of dollars into their fucking live events, right? We paid 6 figures for our literal finals, and it was a good finals. Like I thought we did well with that. But we weren't, in Overwatch, we were not spending crazy amounts of money. And I thought, I don't know, obviously without sponsors, like I don't know what our revenue is, if anything. But like based on the expenditure of the league in 2023, like that's a pretty sustainable amount to work on. So I don't think the league was that far off from just like being survival. We just need a little bit more money injection. If only we didn't lose all the sponsors, I think it would have been fine.
In-game stuff to that
Yeah.
are actually, it's actually like if they put like an esports battle pass like for people to buy, like have some incentives, like there is ways to monetize the viewer, like
Like a champions bundle or something
we just
like that.
didn't. Yeah, we just
I
didn't
brought
do
that
it.
up to Sean. I brought up an esports.
I mean, every
battle
single-
pass to Sean.
Yeah, everyone.
I mean,
yeah.
everyone knows that's a good idea. Like, there's just no like. I'm sure he does too. Like, everyone knows it's a good idea. Like, there's just something holding it back for some reason. But we saw it in World Cup. So maybe that's a glimpse of the future to become. Like, you know what I mean?
But even like the World Cup stuff that they did, like it didn't feel like they did it
Oh wow.
well, right? Like
Yeah, it wasn't well.
could've
Yeah.
done
Like
better.
if you're gonna put milestones, you have to show people did anyone really know what the milestones were or what we were going for or how much like there needs to be a tracker. Like that's what the international and the compendium did so well, is it was like there were milestones in the game where you go to buy stuff. It tells you how close you are to the next milestones. Here's what you get if you buy it and all that kind of stuff. That's why so many people bought it and they got millions of prize pool. Like as with all things that everyone's always talked about, Overwatch and Overwatch Esports doesn't need to reinvent the wheel. It just needs to see what worked for other games and then just literally copy it.
It should be an esports battle pass.
Yeah.
You know, because then you're opening it up so it's not only cosmetics strictly for the esports itself. But that's a big commitment, and probably not a commitment that the Overwatch team would like to make. Just like, hey, we're going to give away some of our battle pass revenue just for prize pool, haha. Like, they're probably not gonna do that. So,
Or like access to the replay viewer. Like, there's just stuff you could do to monetize it.
Yeah.
You want to know what you can do with the L tokens? Is like my idea for an esports battle pass is you feed the L tokens into the battle pass to level the thing up. Like if it's a personal battle pass, well, you guys are more talking about like stretch goals for like overall macro level. I'm talking about like more micro. Like if you purchase an esports battle pass and you were leveling it up just for your own account, you level up not by playing the game, because the game battle pass you play the game, you level up. The esports version, you watch the esport. It gives you tokens or it tracks your viewership, whatever, and that's what levels up the battle pass. And then you insert your AL tokens or whatever it is, and because that's a viewership reward, and that is what levels up your battle pass. So yeah. That's what I think.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk a lot about Overwatch Esports. I say that, I hope, anyway, this year. Well, we'll see when that is, by the way. I don't know. We'll probably talk more about the upcoming season 9, of course, because there's going to be a ton of changes in season 9, and I think we'll make a lot of content about season 9. But I don't know when exactly that is either, so that's probably a bit away. But we'll come up with some fun stuff to talk about. Anyway, a bit of a scuffed episode here. So for Bren's Player of the Week, I really only think there's one option.
Yeah, give it to Jake.
I was gonna say this guy, but
yeah, I'll take it. No, I think we give it to Jake. I think it's funny.
He slept through his alarm. I feel bad for the guy. I also questioned when he did go to bed if he slept through 11:30. But some people
we should give it to TheScore Esports.
No, fuck, no.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Get out of here.
They have one medium take and we're like, you know what? Good job, TheScore. You jumped over the small bar we have for you.
They just released another Overwatch hit piece video like 20 hours ago.
Wait, really? What is it?
Yeah. Check the YouTube video.
I'll have to bring it up.
Overwatch.
They did it.
I don't know what they did with the
Overwatch.
thumbnail
Is it about
there,
the
but
fucking healing?
This could ruin Overwatch.
Oh my god, bro.
They can't help themselves, man. They just can't help themselves.
I don't know what's going on with the video, but
the fucking description is, all right, folks, pack it in. They might really be killing Overwatch this time. After years of poor balancing decisions and a series of ... I'm not clicking on the video because I'm not giving
I thought you just made that up. That's their actual description?
That's the YouTube description of the video.
there you go.
They just gotta give it a rest, man. I can't.
See, Overwatch has a lot of cultural relevance. Where people love the doomsayers. Like they should just make a separate like content creation Discord for Overwatch, and it's just like all the doomsayers, just like.
At least they're talking about us,
Yeah,
at least we're out here still.
Yeah. So something. Make a song about like they hate us or something, but Doesn't matter. We'll shrug it off. Anyway, I don't know. We've been ranting for a bit here. Plat Chat Overwatch, episode 209. Thank you for coming on, Hawk. Always appreciate your perspective. And best of luck with what's next. Anyway, episode 210. I promised last week, by the way, that this episode was going to be a lot of fun because I had something planned. That didn't happen. And instead we did this episode reacting to the self-healing stuff. But next week, Solomon is back. And I promise it's going to be a fun time. I promise it's going to be a fun time. It'll be fun. So check out next week. We'll see you for episode 210. Have a great week, everybody. And we'll see you next time.